entertainment, thoughts of him lingered. In the second hour, he dominated their minds. Concern for Xiao Lan's return filled the hearts of many, prompting inquiries into his situation. Word spread that Xiao Lan had established a customer group chat, leading a multitude to flock to it. In mere hours, the group membership surged from dozens to 200. Messages flooded in, tagging the group owner. Is that you? The lawn person? Are you alright? I've checked. The refusal of cash was likely just a verbal warning. Please come back and assure us. Please, lawn person. Will you return to set up your stall by the west gate of the park? I truly crave your delicacies. In the blink of an eye, the chat became inundated with tags for the group owner. Yet, what they remained unaware of was that this group was merely a facade created by Xiao Lan under an alias. He had no intention of engaging with it, as he was perfectly fine. After nearly 300 messages, someone finally shared a police announcement in the group. I believe I've seen a follow-up regarding the midday incident. The customer who argued with the stall owner is actually a fugitive. Oh my. So all those police officers weren't there to apprehend the stall owner. I assert that the repercussions of refusing cash are not as dire as one might presume. Thus, the vendor was merely implicated by the fugitive and conveniently invited for a chat. The members of the group felt considerably reassured. However, those not in the group and less engaged with the internet remained uninformed. A barbecue vendor, who shared the same entrance as Xiao Lan, was a man of simple demeanor and honest character. Previously, during Xiao Lan's inaugural venture, he had purchased pig trotters from her to support her business. Yet, he soon realized that Xiao Lan required no assistance, as her pig trotters were in high demand. Earlier that afternoon, upon witnessing Xiao Lan's apprehension, other vendors reveled in her misfortune, while the barbecue vendor was deeply concerned. He had hoped to buy another pig trotter in the future, as his family had savored Xiao Lan's culinary skills and longed for more. However, their modest means did not allow for daily indulgence. The last pig trotter he purchased was generously infused with marinade by Xiao Lan. After enjoying the trotters, his wife had frozen the remaining marinade. Each time they cooked, they would utilize a portion of the frozen marinade, resulting in dishes that were equally delectable. Even their son, who typically shunned vegetables, unexpectedly consumed half a plate. The leftover marinade was preserved judiciously, sufficient for at least another week. Chapter 29. A single vegetable, the whole class competes for it. The barbecue vendor's son, Xiaoji, was currently in elementary school. Nowadays, schools dismissed students increasingly earlier, with classes ending at 3:30 in the afternoon. Whereas a typical workday for most companies concluded no earlier than 5 or 6. To accommodate their child's schedule, the vendor and his wife collaborated. She worked at the company while he chose to operate his stall. They alternated in picking up and dropping off their son at school. Initially, the vendor intended to set up his stall at the school gate, but later deemed barbecue, being fast food, nutritionally void and unhealthy for children. Additionally, he felt the work lacked dignity. He did not wish for his son to feel embarrassed if classmates were to see him. Today, as the vendor went to pick up his son, he immediately noticed a change in Xiaoji. His typically reticent son was now animated and chatty, leaving the school surrounded by a throng of classmates. Upon climbing onto the electric scooter, Xiaoji's legs swung with excitement. Xiaoji, what has you so cheerful today? The vendor inquired. Dad, you wouldn't believe it. Mom's stir-fried dishes were absolutely divine. During lunch, as soon as he opened his lunchbox, the entire class erupted in awe, even through the helmet. The vendor could envision his son's radiant joy. Classmates clamored to his seat, trading beef and ribs for his stir-fried greens, even insisting on calling him Big Brother. Dad, I made so many friends today. As the child animatedly recounted his experiences, the barbecue vendor drove on, responding with encouragement. While tears of pride welled in his eyes beneath the helmet, he recalled his wife mentioning that during a parents' meeting, the teacher had remarked that their child exhibited overly solitary tendencies. In school, he often found himself alone, preferring solitude over mingling with other children. The uncle believed that his son's inclination for quietude was simply a part of his nature. The child was also reticent at home, and not every child is innately extroverted. However, he suddenly came to the realization that his son did not dislike playing with other children. Rather, he struggled to integrate into their social circles. They all attended the same public elementary school, donned identical uniforms, and at first glance, it appeared that every child started from the same point. This, however, was a mere illusion. Each child's life commenced from a distinct starting line, and these disparities manifested in subtle details. For instance, school dismissed at 3:30 in the afternoon. Those from affluent backgrounds exited the school gates and proceeded directly to after-school programs, which cost several thousand per semester, complete with tutors to assist them with homework and review the day's lessons. In contrast, children from ordinary families could only complete their assignments at home, without supervision, oblivious to their progress. Moreover, the school permitted students to bring their own lunches. Typically, those who chose to do so fell into two categories: those from less prosperous families, who found even the cafeteria prices exorbitant, and those from exceptionally wealthy backgrounds, who deemed the school meals beneath their standards. Based on snippets of information his son had occasionally shared, the other children in the class brought lunches consisting of beef, salmon, large shrimp, quail eggs, and organic vegetables. The cost of a single meal easily exceeded 100, focused solely on nutrition and health, with no regard for price. Meanwhile, Xiaoji brought the most ordinary fried rice and vegetables, which, while containing meat, was the pork that the wealthy often disdain. The uncle could discern that his son envied those affluent classmates. Who wouldn't he envy those born with a silver spoon? Yet, given their circumstances, he could only advise his child not to compare himself to others and to be content with being full. After a few such conversations, Xiaoji ceased to speak of school matters. His stomach might be filled, but what could satiate his hollow self-esteem? At such a tender age, the desire to be the protagonist and to belong to a group is paramount. No one ostracized him at school. Rather, he, as a supporting character, simply could not penetrate the inner circle of the main figures. Some individuals endure the harsh realities of life and only in their 20s come to the realization that they are merely supporting characters. Yet Xiaoji, at the tender age of 7, grasped this truth. This precociousness, was it a blessing or a curse? However, today, circumstances took an unexpected turn. When Xiaoji opened his lunchbox, the lively discussions and laughter in the classroom abruptly ceased. Countless envious eyes fixated upon him. Those who had previously regarded him as inconsequential made earnest efforts to engage him in conversation. Ultimately, this culminated in a frenzy over a single vegetable, with the entire class clamoring for it. A mouthful of fried rice prompted offers of steak and shrimp in exchange. Xiaoji suddenly found himself in the spotlight of the classroom. No, star would be a more fitting term, for even students from other classes flocked to him, eager to trade lunches. At last, Xiaoji savored the meals he had long envied in his peers. Yet upon tasting, he realized that the flavors were rather ordinary. A $200 steak merely tasted like meat, while a $100 per pound shrimp was just that, a shrimp. Gazing at the peculiarly shaped rocket-like squid, one finds it merely a somewhat brittle fish with a pronounced fishy aroma. The method of preparation, utilizing minimal salt and oil, pales in comparison to the delectable home-cooked dishes typically crafted by one's mother. Moreover, today's lunch included stir-fried vegetables and rice enhanced with the rich gravy of braised pig's trotters, a flavor that wafted enticingly, leaving even the pampered young ladies and gentlemen dreaming of it during their afternoon slumber. Occasionally, one would raise their hand, eyes closed, exclaiming, me, let us trade. At the tender age of 7, friendships were still forged based on instinct rather than a discerning judgment of character. During lunch, a casual conversation revealed that Xiaoji shared similar interests in animation and extracurricular reading with his peers. This instant connection fostered camaraderie, leading to a newfound closeness as they walked arm in arm out of school. It dawned on Xiaoji that some social circles are not as impenetrable as one might assume. Often, it is one's own self-imposed barriers that keep them at bay. Today, he successfully opened a door that had previously seemed locked. Even if he were to face countless closed doors in the future, despair would not take root within him. For he understood that with the right key, any door could be made to yield. Through the rearview mirror, the father observed the corners of his son's mouth lifting in a smile, which tugged at his heartstrings. He yearned to make amends with his son, yet he was uncertain whether the vendor of pig's trotters would return. At 4:30 in the afternoon, as the barbecue vendor prepared to set up his stall, he was suddenly called out by his son. Dad, what's wrong? Look, there's a video of you in the news. Upon receiving the tablet from Xiaoji, the barbecue vendor glanced at the screen, where he saw footage of the events that had unfolded earlier that day at the park entrance. The video captured the vendor of pig's trotters being restrained on the ground, with the barbecue vendor unwittingly caught in the frame as a bystander. The video served not only as a mere record but was accompanied by a voiceover narrating, "This afternoon, our city's police apprehended a fugitive wanted for murder. It is reported that the suspect was caught while purchasing from a street vendor and had an altercation with the vendor." The barbecue vendor paused, scratching his head as he processed the information. It became clear that the police had not specifically targeted Xiaolon. Relief washed over him. Dispelling the earlier panic that had gripped the community, they had feared that refusing cash payments constituted a grave offense, prompting some vendors to tear down their payment QR codes in a desperate display of innocence. With his gloom dissipated, the barbecue vendor laughed heartily, ruffling his son's hair. "Son, you behave and do your homework at home, and in a few days, I will buy you a pig's trotter." "Really? Yay. Dad, I want a big one. Give me a big one." All right. Chapter 30. This pig's trotter is evidence. It cannot be eaten. At the Southwest Public Security Bureau that afternoon, every individual who came to report an incident was met with a curious sight. The officers receiving them had inexplicably dampened the fronts of their uniforms. It was indeed strange. In the biting cold of winter, even the most arduous work should not leave one drenched in sweat. Furthermore, the heating had not been turned on in the office, and windows had been deliberately opened for ventilation. Upon entering, a refreshing chill enveloped the air, unyielding to the notion that it was merely perspiration from the heat. Yet, as the complainants lingered, they inched ever closer to the heart of the matter. What could be the source of such an intoxicating aroma? The complainants, with their nostrils flaring, inhaled the air thick with an alluring scent, their mouths watering uncontrollably. It was a rich, gelatinous fragrance that, with a deep breath, filled their nostrils and flowed gradually through their senses. The pig's trotters, simmered in a second batch of aged marinade, could only be described as a superior version. This enhanced scent was more robust and profound, and with closed eyes, It felt almost tangible. The taste buds on their tongues were ignited, awakening the cravings in their stomachs. Were it not for the reminder of their presence in a police station, the complainants would certainly have opened their mouths wide, voraciously devouring the very air. "Excuse me, officers. Does your cafeteria serve such delightful meals? Or have you ordered takeout? Which establishment did you choose? Please, share the name." When one complainant posed this question, the officer, accustomed to such inquiries, merely smiled. This afternoon, nearly everyone who had stepped through the door, regardless of their initial grievances, found their focus inevitably diverted by the enticing aroma. "Ahem, let us return to the matter at hand. Please recount the circumstances of your lost electric bike," the officer coughed discreetly, using the opportunity to wipe away the drool that had escaped the corner of his mouth with the back of his hand. Any detectable drool was swiftly erased, while the unnoticed remnants were absorbed by the fabric of his uniform. As the complainant opened their mouth, a cascade of saliva fell onto the table. "Oh, my apologies." Startled, they hastily wiped it away with their sleeve. "I didn't mean to." "Not a problem," the officer replied, maintaining a demeanor of nonchalance. Silently, he produced a roll of paper to clean the moisture from the surface. Despite its modest appearance, this roll had only been unwrapped half an hour prior. When no one came to report a case, they would tear off a segment, fold it several times, and tuck it into their collars to serve as a makeshift bib for drool. The complainants merely needed to endure until their statements were recorded, while the officers had to withstand the torment of the pig trotter's aroma until their shift ended. With the front office already subjected to such sensory torture, one could only imagine the plight of those nearest to the source of the fragrance. An hour prior, in an attempt to mitigate the olfactory distraction, the team had collaboratively moved the thermal container into the evidence room. Alas, the potency of the aroma was more penetrating than Wi-Fi, seeping through walls with ease. In the adjacent file room, 2 female officers had each donned 3 face masks in a futile effort to shield themselves. "Oh my, I cannot endure this any longer. These masks are useless. It is simply too fragrant," one officer exclaimed, tearing off her mask to reveal 2 wads of tissue stuffed in her nostrils. It was evident that she was earnestly attempting to block out the scent. "I say, can we not sneak a taste? Just one unnoticed?" The bespectacled officer opposite quickly shifted her gaze from the keyboard. "You'd better put your mask back on. Your drool is splattering over here." Masks are not merely for blocking scents. They are for shielding against saliva. Moreover, how many times must it be reiterated? This pig's trotter is evidence. It constitutes evidence. To consume the pig's trotter is tantamount to destroying and usurping evidence. Can you truly bear the consequences? Sob, "I was merely jesting. I would never actually indulge in it." The female officer with paper wadded in her nostrils wiped her tears and then donned her mask again. "It is simply too fragrant. So much so that my saliva is flowing from my eyes." Who could argue otherwise? The bespectacled officer removed her glasses every few minutes to wipe away the fog. "I feel as though my salivary glands have relocated to my tear ducts. This is unbearable. When will the test results be released? Let that plainclothes officer take his pig's trotter and leave. I suspect he may not be able to depart." The bespectacled officer swallowed hard before continuing seriously. "In my 30 years of life, I have never encountered food with such overwhelming power. Though I do not wish to doubt my colleagues, the unspoken words need not be voiced. Those nearby could comprehend the implication. Indeed, the aroma is exceedingly outrageous and exaggerated. It cannot dissipate even with the windows open, which is decidedly abnormal. I dare say he must have added prohibited substances. If not, then let me be punished to consume both buckets of pig's trotters." The bespectacled officer, incensed, spat as she pointed a finger at her own head. "Is this a punishment? You are merely tantalizing one with the pig's trotters, and I can hardly muster the energy to chastise you." Meanwhile, the instigator of it all, Xiaolon, remained composed in the conference room, displaying his 3 fruit platters. The fragrance of the pig's trotters had no effect on him. To him, it was merely a trivial dish. He had yet to present the main course. Should he unveil a Buddha jumps over the wall, it would surely entice even the Buddha himself to feast. He wondered how the testing was progressing. "I still need to visit the market to procure pig's trotters. They better not delay my departure." Just as he was musing, the conference room door suddenly swung open. "The results are in." The messenger, brimming with excitement, trembled as he held forth a certificate. There were no issues. The contraband reported by the suspect was non-existent. As for the other pathogens, such as E. coli and Staphylococcus aureus, we can investigate those at our leisure. You should hurry back. Without waiting for Xiaolon to react, the eager colleagues hastily ushered him out. Xiaolon had intended to take the half-finished milk with him, adhering to his principle of minimizing waste. However, the colleagues from the Southwest Bureau were particularly hasty, nearly carrying him out in a relay. By the time Xiaolon regained his senses, he found himself outside the police station, a key to an electric scooter thrust into his hand, with the vehicle beside him containing an insulated container. Meanwhile, the door of the Southwest Bureau slammed shut, and even the previously opened windows were closed. Xiaolon was utterly bewildered. What is happening? They had been so welcoming when they asked him to stay. Why now do they treat him like a pariah? Do they resent that he ate too much in the conference room? Had they mentioned that the fruit platters in their bureau were for display only and not for consumption? Xiaolon would not have felt compelled to eat. Shaking his head, Xiaolan mounted his beloved snack cart and drove away. As they watched Xiaolan's retreating figure, the police station erupted in a chorus of cheers. Finally liberated. He has departed. At last, we are liberated from the torment of that exquisite aroma. The victims expelled the wads of paper stuffed in their nostrils one by one, akin to launching fireworks. Another napkin, soaked from the collar, was torn away, reminiscent of waving colorful streamers. Chapter 31. Who is truly the old man's biological son? Finally, the pig's trotter has been taken away. I was nearly driven mad by that tantalizing scent. It was the most excruciating day at work since I joined this profession. To be able to both smell and taste is pure delight, while merely savoring the fragrance without the pleasure of consumption is akin to torture. The personnel from the Southwest Bureau endured this torment for an entire afternoon, their spirits teetering on the brink of collapse. Had they known better, they would not have detained Xiaolan. They should have sent him back to the East City Bureau directly for their own testing. However, after the revelry comes an endless void. Someone smacked their lips and inquired, if the test yielded no issues, why not ask him for one to eat? I believe Brother Xiao has a pleasant disposition and would likely oblige. Yet before the thought could fully escape, a sharp knock to the back of the head silenced him. How dare you ask for that? It is merely a tool for official duties, not a dish from the canteen. We have already delayed their work for an entire afternoon. It would be a miracle if they did not erupt in anger, yet you still have the audacity to ask for food. The chastised individual recognized his folly. While the reasoning was sound, his cravings were insatiable. Might there be a possibility that, on a day when we finish work, we happen to pass by Xiaolan's stall, coincidentally feeling hungry, and notice that his stand is conveniently close and well-stocked, and by sheer chance, I find myself at the front of the queue? Such a series of coincidences is clearly evident to all. Although others remained silent, the sparkle in their eyes suggested otherwise. As they daydreamed, a voice sighed softly, how enviable it is for our colleagues at the East City Bureau. Surely they have all savored Xiaolan's pig's trotters. Thankfully, their sentiments could not reach the East City Bureau. Otherwise, upon hearing this, they would surely rise in protest. It is your fault for detaining Xiaolan. If he had returned with the trotters, everyone would have already indulged. Now, it is late, and by the time Xiaolan returns, work will have concluded. He must also procure pig's trotters for tomorrow. Old Lu, understanding the urgency of his tasks, permitted him to proceed directly, without the need to report back to the precinct. After all, the test results had already been confirmed from the Southwest Bureau. The electronic copy of the report had been sent and printed, neatly placed before Director In. He picked up the printed pages. Though he could not fully comprehend them, a professional was there to elucidate. In simpler terms, it stated, safe and non-toxic. But overindulgence may lead to adverse effects, commonly referred to as discomfort from overeating. This adverse effect had manifested vividly in the old gentleman. 15 pig trotters. He truly had an impressive appetite. While devouring them, he felt no fullness, yet upon returning, he lamented his discomfort. When taken to the hospital for examination, his turn had not yet arrived. After a brief visit to the restroom, he emerged declaring himself fine, insisting it was time to return. The director truly wishes to send this old child back to the countryside, yet he cannot simply disregard him. However, if Xiaolan is able to manage the situation, it may not be entirely unfeasible for them to coexist. Director In, rarely swayed, pondered, is Xiaolan's culinary prowess genuinely as exceptional as rumored? Old Lu, feeling somewhat wronged, replied, I am unaware, as I have yet to taste it. Such an admission casts doubt on Xiaolan's status as his subordinate. Today, he almost had the chance to savor it, only to have it snatched away. Director In inquired about Xiaolan's character and work performance. Old Lu asserted that his character was commendable. He was polite, humble, and eager to assist his colleagues, displaying a notably positive work ethic. Although his physical fitness test results were average, he could certainly manage the weight of a thermal container, indicating that he was sufficiently fit. Meanwhile, the elderly gentleman listened with twitching lips. Xiaolan's casual address of him as Old Deng. Is that what you deem politeness and humility? He effortlessly lifted a refrigerator that stood taller than himself. Are you suggesting that is adequate? Never mind. As long as the rebellious child agrees to let Xiaolan move in with him, that is all that matters. By the way, Director, over the past 2 days, Xiaolan has assisted in solving 3 cases. Subsequently, Old Lu recounted the incidents of Huang He being recognized at the scene, Wang Defa reporting his brother-in-law, and Feng Li being arrested for purchasing pig trotters, detailing Xiaolan's involvement in each. Upon concluding Old Lu's report, Director In reached a resolution. Very well, father. If you wish to reside with Xiaolan, then so be it. However, I will not issue a formal invitation. You must extend the invitation yourself, and if he declines, so be it. Furthermore, I must warn you that should you share a residence with him and indulge excessively in food, leading to another hospitalization, do not expect my assistance. Before he could finish speaking, the old man had already leapt 3 feet high. He will certainly be willing. Who would refuse a free, spacious abode? He declared. I shall seek out Xiaolan immediately to share this delightful news. After a few steps, he suddenly turned back to caution. By the way, son, I haven't disclosed to Xiaolan that you are my son. If you have no pressing matters, refrain from coming home to avoid exposing our secret. Watching the old man seize the keys and transform into a fleeting figure, Director and felt a surge of frustration. In that moment, he found himself pondering who truly was the old man's biological son. Previously, his infrequent returns home were attributed to work commitments. During the rare moments of respite, he preferred to relax in the spacious house he had purchased. Now, however, he was outright prohibited from returning. It appeared he, as the director, was destined to sleep on a hard bed in the office dormitory every day. With eyes wide open, he toiled away at work, and with eyes shut, he fretted over mortgage payments. Ultimately, the new house was reserved for his subordinate. Never mind. Such is the nature of aging. One grows old and becomes peculiar. Director, bear with it. Do not let anger consume you, for ill temper brings no remedy, and you still have to work overtime tonight. Old Lou's attempt at consolation, though well-intentioned, only intensified the director's agitation, causing him to nearly lose his balance. If you cannot articulate something worthwhile, it is better to remain silent. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Xiaolon quietly entered the community, carrying his leftover 2 buckets of braised pig trotters and 80 pounds of fresh pig trotters purchased from the market. Behold his furtive demeanor, glancing anxiously about, retreating a step upon encountering another. Such a profound sense of guilt. It is no wonder that others suspect him of being a psychopathic murderer. He has applied all the counter-surveillance techniques he acquired at the police academy in this very moment. He merely hopes to evade the gaze of his neighbors. Today, he has 2 buckets of pig trotters unsold, which he can peddle tomorrow. The current weather will not spoil the braised delicacies. However, should his neighbors discover them, those 2 buckets would be doomed. Xiaolon surveyed his surroundings once more, assuring himself that no one had fixed their gaze upon him. He hastily seized a thermos from beneath the quilt and ascended the stairs with remarkable speed. His journey was seamless, as he encountered no other neighbors descending the staircase. Just as he was about to reach the 3rd floor, ready to slip into his abode, his steps faltered. From halfway up the stairs, he beheld the corridor on the 3rd floor, densely populated with individuals. Chapter 32. Are the residents of this building truly ordinary citizens? They stood, squatted, or sat, all fixated on Xiaolon. Upon his arrival, their eyes gleamed with a predatory light, akin to wolves in the forest. He has returned. At long last, he has returned. They have finally caught him. Someone shouted, followed by another voice. Hurry, capture him. Do not let him escape. I must uncover what he has been cooking today. I have not slept for 2 nights. Xiaolon finally comprehended why he had not encountered anyone downstairs or in the hallway. It turned out that the entire building's residents had congregated at his doorstep. Acting on instinct, he turned and fled. Fortunately, he had consumed a health-boosting apple. Otherwise, carrying a hefty iron bucket would have hindered his escape. Seeing Xiaolon make a run for it, the crowd remained unperturbed. They had long anticipated this moment and prepared their countermeasures. They swiftly retrieved their phones, opened the WeChat owner group chat, and pressed to send a voice message. Attention! He is currently running downstairs. Intercept him. Intercept him. Upon hearing the commotion behind him, Xiaolon nearly lost his footing, nearly tumbling down the stairs. What the hell? Why does it feel like they are hunting a thief who remembers that he is the police? To his astonishment, his neighbors had seemingly mastered tracking, ambushing, and capturing techniques in their quest for sustenance. Sure enough, as Xiaolon reached the 1st floor landing, he saw 2 groups of people below, closing in on him in a pincer movement. Xiaolon slammed to a halt. Glancing back, he noticed another group on the 2nd floor also pursuing him. Surrounded above and below, escape appeared futile. Yet Xiaolon was no fool. Clutching the thermos, he dashed toward the end of the 1st floor corridor, flung open a window, and, without hesitation, leaped out. The crowd gasped in astonishment. They had not arranged for anyone to guard outside the window, as they had never anticipated that Xiaolon would dare to jump with such a large thermos in hand. Could it be empty? There was no time for contemplation. A few agile young men followed Xiaolon's lead and vaulted out the window, while another group circled around through the front door, attempting to encircle him. As soon as Xiaolon landed, he swiftly rose to his feet and sprinted forward, his feet nearly igniting with the fervor of his haste. Behind him, the crowd shouted, "Why are you running? We're not refusing to pay." Xiaolon was acutely aware that they would indeed offer him payment. However, that was not the crux of the matter. The real issue lay in the sheer number of people present. The meat in his barrel was insufficient to satiate them all. Faced with a shortage, it was inevitable that they would resent leaving empty-handed, and thus they would attempt to seize his treasured old stew. This concoction had absorbed the essence of 120 pounds of stewed pig trotters, akin to a superlative, double-strength broth. This broth was far more precious than the trotters themselves, and he simply could not allow it to be shared among the masses. He had to run, without negotiation. If he allowed them to indulge, he would never enjoy a moment of peace. The entire building would come seeking him daily, and if they were dissatisfied, they would not permit him to leave. Just as Xiaolon dashed towards the spot where his tricycle was parked, he caught sight of a figure looming near the front of his vehicle. A chill swept over him. Someone had preemptively claimed his ride, severing his escape route. Good heavens, were the inhabitants of this building truly mere ordinary residents? Were they not perhaps a battalion of retired special forces? In his moment of despair, the figure seated at the front of the tricycle spotted him and, with sudden enthusiasm, waved him over. "Come here. Hurry." Upon hearing that familiar, aged voice, Xiao Lan's eyes sparkled with hope. It was the old man, not one of the other residents. This elderly gentleman owed him a favor. Though he could eat a considerable amount, satisfying this one individual was far more feasible than appeasing the entire building. Reinvigorated, Xiao Lan dashed forward with incredible speed. He leapt onto the tricycle, and before he could fully straighten up, he shouted, "Quick, drive, now." The old man responded with perfect timing, flooring the accelerator and shifting into the highest gear, bursting through the encroaching throng and barreling away. The residents, who were merely seeking a morsel to eat, lacked the resolve to confront death. As they witnessed the vehicle hurtling towards them, they scrambled to clear the path. Watching the tricycle race away, the crowd stamped their feet in frustration. "Damn it, he got away," they lamented. "He may have escaped the monk, but he cannot flee the temple. He will return." They resolved to continue their watch, vowing to notify each other the moment he was spotted. "My goodness, that fellow runs incredibly fast. With such a large barrel, even if it were empty, it would be heavy. How does he move like that?" One neighbor, now privy to the truth, remarked, "Can you really not catch up with him? He is a policeman, after all, and his physical fitness surely surpasses that of an ordinary person. Is that true?" "Absolutely. Last night, my husband and I overheard him reveal his profession." The crowd gasped in astonishment. "What? Such culinary skills, and he is a policeman? I surmise he must work in the police cafeteria, young as he is. His skills surpass even those of seasoned chefs." Amidst the murmurs of the crowd, someone sighed in dismay. "If I had known the police had such excellent rations, I wouldn't have discouraged my daughter from reporting to them." The tricycle resolutely departed, leaving behind a trail of dust. On the vehicle sat Xiao Lan, who wiped the sweat from his brow. Running around in the depths of winter had truly exhausted him. Once settled, Xiao Lan finally had the inclination to inquire, "Old man, how did you end up here? Do you reside in this building as well? And did you see in the owners' group that they plan to take action against me?" The elderly gentleman, driving ahead with a cheerful demeanor, replied, "Not at all. I don't live in this complex. What brings you here? Hey, you lad. After I just saved you, can't you be a bit more polite? I came to return the money I owe you. I've said it before. I want to take your 15 pig trotters for free. I'm not here to mooch off you." Xiao Lan, skeptical, extended his hand from behind, asking, "Then where's the money?" "None," the old man retorted, albeit with a sense of indignation. Xiao Lan rolled his eyes. "Old dang. Are you trying to fool me?" The old man glanced at Xiao Lan through the rearview mirror, noticing that he wasn't genuinely angry, and chuckled. "I may not give you money directly, but I have another way to compensate you. I'm in the city because a relative of mine is going abroad. He has a property near the municipal hospital. He is concerned that the house will deteriorate if left unoccupied, not wanting to rent it to careless tenants. He called me to help oversee it. And it would be even better if I could find some reliable renters. Young man, we seem destined to meet. Since you can't stay in your previous place any longer, why don't you move in with me? I'll rent it to you at half price. You only need to cover my 3 meals a day." Chapter 33. Free housing, or do you want to sell my kidney? Upon hearing the old man's offer, Xiao Lan felt a flicker of temptation. However, the last remark caused him to frown in disbelief. 3 meals a day for you, and I still have to pay rent? Isn't that equivalent to being your caretaker while losing money? He retorted indignantly. "Have you any shame asking me for money? The price of those 15 pig trotters alone is nearly 800. Do you have any idea how much my goods sell for outside?" Initially, the proximity of the municipal hospital to the police station where Xiao Lan worked piqued his interest, but the thought of the gluttonous old man extinguished his enthusiasm. The old man opened his mouth to argue, but seemed at a loss for words. He had indeed accompanied Xiao Lan to the market today. Xiao Lan's assertion held weight. The pig trotters sold for 80 per pound, a steep price, and business was thriving. 15 trotters, when roughly calculated, would amount to 700 or 800. "How about I don't charge you rent then?" "Absolutely not." Xiao Lan firmly rejected the idea. "You eat too much." The old man grit his teeth. "It was my first time. I couldn't help myself. I promised to restrain myself in the future. I'll only eat 5 at a time. Is that acceptable?" Xiao Lan frowned. 5 per meal means 15 a day. Do you think I'm foolish? Are you the one who can't count, or do you think I can't? The old man pouted in grievance. "Then how about a maximum of 5 a day?" Xiao Lan established the criteria, and it doesn't necessarily have to be pig trotters. "In the future, I may embark on other endeavors, regardless of what I pursue. You shall partake in it, so refrain from unnecessary chatter." The old man, fearing that this esteemed figure might change his mind, hastily acquiesced. Standards are established by humanity, yet rules exist to be broken. The number of indulgences he can procure will indeed be a testament to the old man's ingenuity. Were director and present to overhear their exchange, he would surely be infuriated. He faces a monthly mortgage of 4,000 to 5,000. If the old man were to request a mere 500 in rent from Xiao Lan, it would ease his burden somewhat. Yet, astonishingly, he accepted not a single cent, purely a gift. Meanwhile, Xiao Lan, having benefited yet feigning innocence, began to harbor doubts. "Old dang, you wouldn't have ulterior motives, would you? Planning to harvest my kidneys? Let me assure you, I am indeed a police officer, and my kidneys are not your prey. If you truly intend to engage in nefarious deeds, it's not too late to surrender. Otherwise, once I arrive at your lair, I shall apprehend you all." The old man, exasperated to the point of amusement, recalled how he once instilled fear in international criminals during his youth. Now, in his old age, he found himself suspected of being a villain. Do I strike you as a bad person? What use would I have for your kidneys? They are inedible. I am merely interested in your large, clumsy feet. Their banter continued as they unwittingly arrived at a quaint community near the city center hospital. Xiaolon observed clearly that they had just passed a large vegetable market, and he felt a genuine sense of attraction. This location was indeed advantageous, close to his workplace and the market. If the living conditions were decent and no rent was charged, it could indeed become a residence. The old man, catching sight of Xiaolan's expression through the rearview mirror, chuckled to himself, pleased that his detour past the market had not been in vain. Moments later, a tricycle adorned with flashing lights entered the charming community, drawing astonished glances from passers-by. The security guard initially intended to stop them, but, upon seeing their access card, resignedly stepped aside. As the tricycle moved away, the guard could not help but mutter, what nonsense. They can afford to buy a house here, yet choose to travel by tricycle. As the old man stepped into the elevator, Xiaolon suddenly activated his phone camera. What are you doing? The old man inquired, puzzled. I possess a strong sense of vigilance. I intend to record the entire process to keep my colleagues informed. Should you prove to be a villain, my colleagues will respond immediately. Allow me to remind you once more, I am a police officer, and so are my colleagues. The old man found himself speechless, silently reflecting. What a coincidence. I have also been a police officer. And my son is a police officer as well. He's the chief of your precinct. Upon exiting the elevator, Xiaolon continued to hold his camera aloft. Once we enter the house, I shall take more footage. Who knows if you have laid any traps? The old man recalled that his son, possessing a penchant for cleanliness, had likely never hosted colleagues from the precinct for dinner. Even if recorded, they would not be recognizable. Thus, he waved his hand dismissively. Fine, fine. Go ahead and film as you please. Xiaolon, however, was not merely speaking. He truly recorded the entire encounter and sent the video to Lia Si. He is one of the 3 clever individuals who accompanied him in the venture of selling goods undercover. Upon suddenly receiving a multitude of videos, Lia Si, filled with curiosity, messaged, what is happening? Why are you sending me so many videos? Xiaolon replied directly with a voice message. I'm here to view a property. Preparing to relocate. Alright, the new rental you've secured looks quite pleasant. It resembles a residential community, doesn't it? Xiaolon responded. Indeed, it is a community residence. Lia Si was taken aback. Really? That must be quite expensive. What is the rent? Xiaolon feigned nonchalance, causing Lia Si's voice to echo through the corridor. The elderly man walking ahead, if not hard of hearing, could easily overhear their conversation. It's free. The landlord claims to be going abroad, seeking a reliable tenant to maintain the place. Such good fortune exists in this world. It can't be a scam luring you into a pyramid scheme. Or do they intend to harvest your kidneys? Even Lia Si, with his limited intellect, understood that opportunities like that do not simply fall from the sky. Xiaolon remarked with a cold smirk. Indeed, I suspect it might be a ruse. However, I am a police officer. Should they dare approach me, they would find themselves in serious trouble. As Xiaolon spoke, he meticulously observed the elderly man's reaction. Noticing his lack of fear, he felt a slight increase in trust. The old man opened the door, allowing Xiaolon to enter. From the moment he stepped in, Xiaolon held his phone aloft, capturing images from the living room to the bedroom, from the bedroom to the restroom, and from the restroom to the kitchen. Everything appeared normal, devoid of any ambush. Though the household items were somewhat sparse, nevertheless, all essential furniture was present, including a refrigerator and air conditioning. On the other end of the phone, Lia Si was astounded. Wow, an exquisitely furnished apartment. 3 rooms and 2 halls, plus a balcony. Is it truly free? Could it be that good fortune has truly befallen you, Xiaolon? Why haven't I encountered such luck? Xiaolon too was perplexed. Could such fortuitous opportunities truly exist? Once he finally set his phone down, the elderly man sighed. You, my boy, are far too suspicious. Xiaolon retorted. I assent it because you are rather deceitful? Pretending to have dementia while concealing your adeptness at subduing armed assailants. If you were in my position, would you believe me? By the way, who are you really? The elderly man pondered for a moment before crafting his response. Half truthfully, he stated, I was a soldier in my youth, and later served as a security guard for several decades. It's reasonable that I possess some skills. This explanation seemed quite plausible. Xiaolon indeed observed remnants of military discipline in the old man, notably his upright posture despite his age. Naturally inclined to trust those with a military background, Xiaolon's guard lowered a fraction. Very well, it appears I may have misjudged you. However, you did deceive me first. In any case, thank you. This place is quite nice, and I shall reside here. Meanwhile, Lia Si repeatedly viewed the videos Xiaolon had sent, growing increasingly astonished. Unable to contain himself, he forwarded the videos to the other 2 clever individuals, captioning it, This lad, Xiaolon, has truly struck gold lately. Today, a criminal unwittingly fell into his own trap. And to add to the absurdity, someone generously offered him a place to stay. It is said that the owner of this residence, preparing to travel abroad, was concerned that the house might deteriorate from lack of occupancy and thus invited Xiaolon to keep an eye on it. Unbeknownst to him, this news made its way into the large work group of the East City Police Department. At the same time, Director and who was on the verge of exhaustion from overtime work, was about to rise for a cup of tea to clear his mind when suddenly, the work group lit up with notifications. Without even opening the message, he saw a flurry of text pop up, which darkened his expression significantly. Upon clicking the video link, he discovered that the house being filmed was indeed his own, leaving his demeanor utterly grim. What a turn of events. In such a short span, he had been coerced into an overseas trip. He had anticipated that his father would at least charge a nominal rent, yet here he was, receiving nothing at all. Surely, Xiaolan would not be exempt from paying utilities as well. Director and was not miserly. After all, even in the unit's dormitory, he was required to cover his own utility costs. The stark contrast only deepened his sense of desolation, rendering him momentarily unable to discern who truly held authority in this scenario. To make matters worse, someone in the group, oblivious to the gravity of the situation, excitedly commented, "Wow, Xiaolan is living in such luxury. Tomorrow, let us all gather at his place for a hot pot. The balcony seems perfect for a barbecue." The fastidious director and felt his vision darken as he sank back into his seat. "A hot pot? Do you believe I one-tea toss you all into the pot myself? And a barbecue? You're putting me on the grill." His fingers danced furiously across the keyboard as he prepared to express his ire. However, just as he was about to hit send, he noticed that the offending message had been retracted, likely due to the sender's realization of the error in posting it to such a large group. Left alone with his indignation, he hovered his finger over the send button, trembling in conflict, yet ultimately chose to delete all his words with a heavy sigh. "Oh, Father, you truly have a knack for placing your son in difficult predicaments." That evening, Xiaolan diligently cleaned the freshly purchased pig trotters. The elderly gentleman, displaying remarkable perceptiveness, was not merely a consumer. He promptly offered his assistance upon observing Xiaolan's endeavors. His efficiency as a helper significantly accelerated the pace of their work. The building boasted excellent ventilation, unlike Xiaolan's previous cramped quarters, and the spacious layout ensured that the enticing aroma would not linger excessively throughout the neighborhood. Yet, despite the ample space, the fragrance would only be diluted, never entirely dissipating. Thus, a captivating scene unfolded. The entire neighborhood became enraptured by the alluring scent. Residents opened their windows in search of the source, but the aroma did not present itself in isolated bursts. It spread gently, enveloping the area like moonlight, seemingly omnipresent. It permeated evenly and insidiously into every household, relentlessly invading every nook and cranny. Even with windows firmly shut, it stealthily infiltrated through the heating ducts and door seams, quietly asserting its presence. If one were to say that the aroma perceived by Xiaolan's former neighbors was akin to a blade striking directly at their faces, then the sensation experienced by her new neighbors could be likened to the torment of flesh being meticulously pinched by a nail clipper. Regardless, it was a night devoid of restful slumber. At the stroke of 2, countless individuals rose from their beds, frantically scratching their heads. What on earth is MD? It smells divine. They pondered throughout the night, unable to reach a conclusion, and for a long time to come, clarity seemed elusive. The following midday, when the familiar silhouette of Xiaolan reappeared at the western entrance of the electronic park, the news spread instantaneously through numerous private groups. Reliable sources report that the young man selling pig trotters has returned. "Oh my goodness, is that true? Don't tease me. Last night, some deranged soul convinced me he was setting up shop, and I ended up skipping work to buy some, only to be caught by my boss. To the one above, I sympathize with you. Did your boss reprimand you? I hope your salary wasn't deducted." "Fear not. I faced no reprimand nor wage deduction. I was caught at the entrance, for my boss too had sneaked out to buy some. Hee. Well, but there are still half an hour until quitting time. I can't bear to stay a single second longer. After tasting a pig trotter yesterday, I finally understood why everyone is so enchanted. Same here. I never realized my palate was so discerning that it could detect such layers in food. Previously, I would reward myself each night before bed, but after tasting the pig trotter, it completely eclipsed my thoughts of rewards. The previous message seems misplaced. This is a work group, not a chat room. Please elaborate on the rewards." One message has been retracted. The group members were counting the seconds as if they were years. Meanwhile, those in close proximity had already rushed to make their purchases. The uncle selling barbecued goods was the first customer to charge forward. "Young man, it's wonderful to see you back. Quickly, weigh me a pig trotter, and make it a large one. My son loves them." Xiaolan noticed him running over from his barbecue stand, aware that he too was a vendor. "All right, but are you certain you want it now? You do plan to sell until 2, don't you? Buying now will leave it cold." The barbecue uncle nonchalantly replied. "Let it be cold. I can reheat it when I get home. I'm worried that if your business is too good later, I won't get any if I don't buy in advance." Xiaolan's expression stiffened. Well, that was unexpected. Another curse slipped out. Couldn't he wish her a bit of good fortune instead? Perhaps wishing that his pig trotters would sell out by evening, with no customers in sight. Never mind. Soon, the barbecue vendor departed with an oversized pig trotter. It was so large that it wouldn't fit in a single bowl. The lid was forced off, and it required 2 plastic bags to secure it properly. The other vendors clearly heard the electronic sound announcing, "Fortune has arrived, 110 yuan." Truly, it was a sight that inspired envy and admiration in equal measure. One transaction yielded over 100 yuan. Wasn't he this pig trotter vendor just taken away by the police yesterday? Why was no one avoiding him or shunning him, but instead rushing to support his business? There is a street vendor selling fried skewers, who could not help but inquire of the barbecue vendor, "How can you afford such an extravagant purchase? Have you struck it rich in the lottery?" The vendor chuckled, "Not at all. It's just that my family, my wife and children, adore these delicacies, so I bought them." The vendor's incredulity was palpable as she exclaimed, "At such a price, 2 pig trotters could easily treat your family of 3 to a restaurant meal. This hardly seems worthwhile." The vendor insisted, "It is indeed a bargain. In the entire city, nay, the whole world, you will not find anything more delectable than these pig trotters, I assure you." Seeing the vendor's enthusiastic endorsement, the woman felt a twinge of desire. Remarkably, amidst their conversation, the aroma of the packed pig trotter wafted into the nostrils of the surrounding vendors, enticing them and stirring their appetites. Yet, due to the steep price and a sense of envy as fellow merchants, none dared to act. Unbeknownst to the vendor, others were eavesdropping intently. As he continued to converse with the woman, "We are all in the food industry. Our understanding is crystal clear. My barbecued offerings and your fried skewers may differ in preparation, yet the ingredients are sourced from the same wholesale market, frozen and pre-prepared. The restaurants and takeout places also rely on pre-packaged meals. It's all the same flavor regardless of where you dine." Chapter 35. Vendors abandoning their businesses to purchase pig trotters? Such remarks struck a chord with the audience, all of whom were in the same line of work. Fully aware of the industry's hidden truths, those who toil in a profession often harbor a disdain for it, an adage not to be taken lightly. The deeper their understanding of the industry, the more profound their aversion. They would never serve the products they sell to their own children. They themselves could hardly stomach them. The vendor selling shredded chicken could not resist joining the conversation. "Everyone claims that life is getting better, that we no longer need to worry about food and drink. Yet, I can't shake the feeling that today's offerings lack the quality of yesteryear." The vendor of hand-grabbed pancakes nodded in agreement. "I recall when chicken and duck meat was sweet, and beef carried a hint of milk. Even a simple fried egg could fill a room with its delightful aroma." The fried skewer vendor echoed their sentiments. Nowadays, chicken, beef, and pork all taste as if they are synthetic. Eating a fried egg feels akin to chewing on plastic. Everything seems devoid of flavor." The barbecue vendor, unfazed by the others' eavesdropping, continued seamlessly. "Thus, finding truly delicious establishments has become a rare endeavor. Lacking the requisite skills myself, when I encounter a talented chef, I must seize the opportunity, lest I miss out in the future." The surrounding vendors, now anxious, collectively queried, "Why won't we be able to buy it in the future?" The barbecue vendor elaborated, "Consider this, that young man has such a thriving business. Will he continue to operate a stall? Surely. He will establish a chain and become a successful entrepreneur. Dining at a chain restaurant will not be at the same price point. It will surely multiply several times over. Moreover, once he becomes an owner, he certainly will not be cooking himself, leading to even higher prices for a less authentic culinary experience." Others, upon hearing this, found the reasoning compelling, though some could not suppress their jealousy towards Xiaolan, retorting coolly, "Becoming an owner of a chain is not so simple. Running a stall incurs no storefront costs, yet one can still earn a profit. Once a shop is opened, regardless of whether business flourishes or falters, rent must be paid monthly. How many have embarked on their entrepreneurial journey only to find themselves closing shop shortly after, losing their savings and returning to street vending in a state of dismay?" Initially, one might expect the barbecue vendor to dispute this notion, yet he merely nodded in agreement, appearing to fully comprehend the sentiment. Indeed, the rent for commercial premises is exorbitant. Consequently, an increasing number of entrepreneurs, in an effort to reduce costs, find themselves compromising the quality of their ingredients, often falling short of even the standards of our humble street food stalls. How many of us, when we first ventured into business, envisioned using superior ingredients to create delectable dishes that would attract customers? Ultimately, however, we discover that the costs are prohibitively high, rendering profit unattainable. In the end, many resort to frozen wholesale options. At this point, the barbecue vendor gestured subtly toward Xiaolan's back. "That young man, being a novice, uses only the finest ingredients for his pig trotters. Customers are not foolish. Their willingness to pay a premium indicates their recognition of the quality of his product. Should that young man eventually become seasoned like us, understanding the art of cost-cutting for profit, genuine quality may become a rarity." Before he could finish, the pancake vendor abruptly tossed aside his spatula. Under the puzzled gazes of onlookers, he dashed to Xiaolan's stall, exclaiming, "Boss, I'll have a pig trotter, the large one." The astonishment among the crowd was palpable. Indeed, it is often fellow vendors who best understand the psyche of their peers. When a business first opens, the portions are typically generous, and the quality is at its peak. However, this invariably diminishes over time, with prices escalating while quality control becomes increasingly lax. The barbecue vendor's words awakened everyone to the reality. If one desires to indulge, there is no time for hesitation or pride. We must cherish the present offerings of Xiaolan, for the future may not yield the same exquisite pig trotters. Surrounding vendors shed their reservations and indecision. Casting aside their current tasks, untying their aprons and rushing forward. "Boss, I want one too." In a matter of moments, a queue formed before Xiaolan's stall. While not a vast crowd, every individual in line was an unexpectedly familiar face. Workers were about to finish their shifts, marking a critical moment for welcoming customers. Astonishingly, these vendors disregarded their own stalls to purchase pig trotters from Xiaolan. This peculiar scene compelled other vendors to abandon their work and join the fray. Although the reasons for the frenzy remained unclear, the fact that everyone clamored for the same item suggested it was something exceptional. Xiaolan stood in shock, seemingly grasping the situation as he glanced at the barbecue vendor. Their eyes met, and the vendor puffed out his chest with pride, exuding an air of satisfaction for having attracted so many customers. Xiaolan was left bewildered, pondering the vendor's motivations. What grudge or rivalry could exist? Even the vendor who had previously opposed Xiaolan quietly slipped into the line, head bowed, as if hoping to remain unnoticed. Xiaolan could only shake his head in exasperation. "Hey, wearing a mask doesn't disguise your identity. What kind of ruse is this?" The vendors, having been immersed in the atmosphere, understand the essence of self-service purchasing. There is no need for Xiaolan to attend to them. They have already paid and taken their pig trotters, leaving in haste. As the workers rush out of the gates after their shifts, they are met with a striking scene. Xiaolan, appearing utterly disenchanted, leans against his snack cart, watching as one pig trotter after another is claimed by eager hands. Surrounding his cart is a throng of customers. In stark contrast to the other stalls, which are completely devoid of patrons, no customers or even other vendors in sight. All the vendors are gathered around Xiaolan. Longtime customers gasp in astonishment. "Goodness, I thought I was quick enough. But now I must compete not only with the workers from the entire park, but also with other vendors. This is it. The secret gem of a shop is impossible to conceal. Even competitors recognize its allure." Meanwhile, new customers who have never purchased pig trotters stand dumbfounded, merely wishing to buy some fried rice or noodles. Why are the vendors selling those dishes also abandoning their posts to queue? If they flock to other stalls, what will happen to the customers at their own? Are they to let the customers cook for themselves? Currently, only Xiaolan's stall remains operational. Those who initially had no intention of buying are compelled to change their minds and join the queue at this sole establishment. As the number of Xiaolan's patrons grows, so too does the renown of his pig trotters. The other three entrances are nearly devoid of business, as all customers gravitate towards the west gate. Sometimes, even before Xiaolan's cart arrives, customers form lines in anticipation, reserving their spots. The other vendors have no objections, for they too wish to indulge. For the next 3 days, the aroma of pig trotters envelopes the entire electronics park, day and night. Those who successfully obtain them celebrate with exuberance, while those who do not lament their misfortune. At last, the authorities, intent on apprehending the suspected smugglers, can no longer remain idle. Chapter 36. Report. The target suspect has been successfully lured. Within the electronics park, in the plastics factory, it is barely 11 in the morning when Sun Xiaohu attempts to slip away undetected. This peculiar behavior catches the attention of his older brother, Sun Dalong. "Stop. Where do you think you're going?" "Brother, I truly long to savor those pig trotters once more." Sun Dalong, ever vigilant, eyes him with suspicion. "Can't you send someone to fetch them? Why must you go out yourself?" Sun Xiaohu bristles at this, his round face flushing with indignation. "Not a single one of my subordinates can be trusted. They all deceive me, claiming they couldn't procure any, that they are sold out. Yet, as they speak, their lips glisten with oil. Clearly, they've been sneaking bites on the way. He must go himself." Previously, Sun Xiaohu managed to snatch half a pig trotter from a subordinate's grasp. After savoring it once, he became utterly obsessed. However, since then, his subordinates have taken precautions, always returning only after they have finished eating. When questioned, they insist they didn't buy any, adamantly denying having consumed the delicacy. It is rumored that the vendor of the pig trotters enforces numerous strict rules: no cutting in line, a limit of 1 per purchase, no proxy buying, and cash is not accepted. Thus, even if one wishes to seek out someone for purchasing on their behalf, it proves exceedingly challenging. Regardless of which subordinate is dispatched or how much remuneration is offered, they invariably return reeking of pig trotters, handing over the money to Sun Xiaohu with the disheartening news that no purchases were made. Sun Xiaohu, however, does not mind taking on the task himself. Yet, his elder brother, Sun Dalong, is exceedingly cautious, persistently forbidding Sun Xiaohu from venturing out, insisting on minimizing exposure. "You've forgotten that the stall owner was just released from the station a few days ago? If the police are keeping a watch on him, your presence could easily attract their attention." Listening to such reasoning, one cannot help but find it absurd. It is all merely hypothetical. Where do all these what-ifs come from? Sun Xiaohu firmly believes that his brother's caution borders on excessive. Though they are engaged in illicit activities, they have managed to do so with remarkable discretion. For over a year, the authorities have failed to uncover their smuggling operations. In fact, one could argue that their dealings are not dissimilar to legitimate business. He fails to comprehend why his elder brother remains so neurotically vigilant. Recently, they had a significant transaction lined up, only to hear that a fugitive named Huang had been apprehended in the park, despite the fact that this individual was entirely unrelated to them. His brother insisted on postponing the deal, citing safety concerns. "So be it, Business matters are not Sun Xiaohu's forte. He shall defer to his elder brother's judgment. However, when it comes to indulging in culinary delights, he possesses the utmost expertise. Having prospered in business, Sun Xiaohu has sampled nearly every renowned delicacy throughout the city. From airborne creatures to terrestrial beasts and aquatic life, both legal and illegal, he has tasted them all. Initially, the novelty was delightful, but as he continued to indulge, the enjoyment waned, until one day, he stumbled upon a subordinate gnawing on a pig's trotter. The trotter was half-eaten, dripping with saliva. Unable to restrain himself, Sun Xiaohu snatched it away and devoured it. Instantly, he was transported back to the euphoric sensation of first tasting exotic delicacies. The flavor was so exquisite that he crushed the leftover bones with his teeth, swallowing every morsel. He even broke a tooth in the process, yet deemed it worth the sacrifice. His elder brother's prohibition against purchasing did not quell his hunger. Indeed, his stomach protested more vehemently than his mouth. He could comply with his brother on many matters, but this was non-negotiable. He could forego his midday excursion. At worst, he would sneak out in the evening. Before he knew it, the clock struck 5. Ever since Xiao Lan moved, with the assistance of an elderly gentleman and the convenience of the market, his efficiency in crafting pig's trotters had significantly improved, with production doubling. Now, he sells a round at noon and another in the afternoon. Each round lasts no more than 2 hours before he must pack up and return home. While selling pig's trotters is not physically exhausting, it does weigh heavily on his heart. When will he be able to attract those smugglers? With the enticing aroma of his pig's trotters wafting through the park, one would expect a swarm of patrons to emerge. Why does his food cart remain devoid of customers? With a wistful sigh, Xiao Lan lowered his gaze, only to suddenly catch sight of a flash of red, his pupils dilating in surprise. What? Just as I lamented the absence of customers, the signal lights up? Xiao Lan endeavored to maintain his composure, casually glancing up. Standing before his food cart was a rotund man with a round face. While many who gain weight appear endearing, this particular individual was decidedly different. His eye bags were pronounced, and his thick eyelids squeezed his eyes into mere slits. With a large, bulbous nose reminiscent of a drunkard, he exuded an air of being drained by indulgence and vices. A tattoo adorned his arm, vaguely identifiable as that of a tiger, albeit somewhat deformed, resembling a hippopotamus at first glance. The rotund man, his eyes glimmering with greed, fixated intently on the pig trotters, completely oblivious to the subtle changes in Xiao Lan's expression. He audibly swallowed, and a glint of mischief flashed in his narrowed eyes. In a swift motion, he pinched 4 or 5 pieces of trotters, tossing them onto the scale, only to hastily lift them again as the price appeared, hurriedly scanning to pay, believing himself unseen. Little did he know, Xiao Lan had been observing him the entire time. Hey, wait a moment. Xiao Lan, previously pondering how to initiate a conversation, now found his opportunity. Sir, there is a limit of 1 piece of pig trotter per person, and it seems you have taken more than allowed. Sun Xiaohu's face stiffened, and he stubbornly retorted. What do you mean more? It's just 1 piece. Besides, even if I take a few more, I am still paying for them. Apologies. But the 1-piece limit is to ensure fairness for other customers. If you take more, there will be none left for them. Please take another look and confirm if it is indeed just 1 piece. Sun Xiaohu muttered a curse under his breath, genuinely taken aback by the vendor's eccentricity, which surpassed the rumors he had heard. He had expected some leniency, perhaps a wink and a nod, but instead, the vendor was insistent, refusing to let go of the opportunity presented to him. He felt an urge to grab the vendor by the collar and compel him to sell all the trotters. But he was a smuggler, not a thug. Moreover, with so many customers around, any trouble he stirred could result in a backlash from the hungry patrons. His elder brother had always instructed him to keep a low profile, so Sun Xiaohu could only curse under his breath and obediently return the excess trotters. He found it impossible to abandon them entirely and shout, I want tea by anything. Fortunately, the vendor, sensing the tension, smiled and handed him a packet of chili pepper. Sir, it seems this is your first time here. It's quite normal not to know the rules. This is my homemade secret sauce. It pairs wonderfully with the trotters. Just take a whiff. Isn't it delightful? Xiao Lan intentionally opened the packet of chili sauce and discreetly tossed in a painful reformed chili, crushing it through the bag. He placed it before the suspect to sniff. The spicy, savory aroma instantly stimulated Sun Xiaohu's appetite, dousing his anger. Hee, it's delicious, truly delightful. The red chili pepper harmonized beautifully within the oily concoction, enhancing its visual appeal. Xiao Lan smiled playfully. If it's to your liking, do come again next time. Once the suspect had vanished from sight, Xiao Lan promptly pulled out his phone. Report to the captain. Successfully lured the target suspect. He also summarized the suspect's character, bad-tempered, yet quite amenable. Naturally, he omitted the detail of having gifted a painful reformed chili. The captain replied swiftly, Excellent, keep it up. Surveillance is not a race. Maintain your composure. Unable to resist, Xiao Lan inquired, When shall we apprehend the criminal? Last time, when the criminal was apprehended, the rewards bestowed by the system were exceedingly generous, prompting a stir of excitement within Xiao Lan. Old Lu responded, You need not concern yourself with capturing criminals. Your sole duty is to relay information. The operational team has far more to deliberate. Xiao Lan replied, All right, Simply adhere to the formula, then. With the captain's endorsement, Xiaolon relinquished all responsibility. After all, as long as he participated, the system would grant him rewards. However, he was curious about the potency of the painfully remorseful little pepper. Perhaps he would test it on that suspect. That evening, at 2 o'clock in the morning, Sun Xiaohu suddenly sprang from his bed, delivering a sharp slap to his own face. I truly deserve this, he lamented. He was inexplicably overwhelmed by a wave of regret. The realization that he had been indulging in a life of debauchery funded by ill-gotten gains weighed heavily on him. He felt he had betrayed his country, his people, and society at large. Having lived for decades, this was the first instance when his moral standards had reached such a pinnacle. He began to slap his face repeatedly, muttering, I really deserve this. How could I become a despicable smuggler? I am a parasite of society. My brother and I, we both deserve this fate. The commotion roused 2 alluring women sleeping beside him. One, half awake, complained, What are you two starting again? You're not that old yet, but your appetites are insatiable. The other, puzzled, opened her eyes and inquired, Aren't you the one with him? Suddenly, she caught sight of Sun Xiaohu furiously slapping his own face and gasped, What are you doing? Her exclamation alerted Sun Xiaohu to the presence of the 2 women. He froze for a moment before letting out a scream that was sharper than theirs. In a frenzy, he snatched the bedsheet to cover himself and dashed into the bathroom. He turned on the shower, sobbing uncontrollably as he scrubbed his body vigorously under the cold water. Woe is me. I am filthy. I engaged in prostitution, and with 2 at once. I am no longer pure. I have betrayed my future wife and children. Purity is a man's finest dowry. The 2 alluring women stood outside the bathroom, their fists clenched tighter and tighter. They were tempted to strike him. What was going on? Where had that bold demeanor from the boat vanished to? Why the sudden transformation into a paragon of chastity? After washing away his sorrows 3 times, Sun Xiaohu emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, his eyes swollen. Upon seeing the 2 women smoking and regarding him with disdainful gazes, he crumbled once more. Leaning against the door frame, he wept pitifully. A hefty mass of over 200 pounds. Get out. I don't want to see you. One of the alluring women exhaled a puff of smoke and coldly chuckled. Oh, how delightful. In this day and age, you refuse to pay for your indulgences and yet still put on a performance. Earlier, you were so extravagant, not insisting we pay up front. Now you wish to dismiss us and attempt to abscond with the payment? Sun Xiaohu retorted, This is not about avoiding payment. I simply cannot give you money. Once I do, it would be tantamount to engaging in prostitution, which is illegal. I cannot partake in such actions. Please, you've already crossed that line. Do you think that denying payment absolves you of your actions? Sisters, teach him a lesson. The 2 women picked up their high heels and launched a barrage of strikes towards Sun Xiaohu. The imposing figure of the man did not retaliate. Instead, he cowered, weeping and clutching his head, exclaiming, I cannot give you the money. It is tainted. I must return it to the state. I cannot spend it. Woe is me. After delivering a thorough beating, the 2 assailants pressed his fingerprint and transferred the funds via smartphone. Before departing, they spat at him, rebuking, If you're going to default, at least don't pretend to be a moral exemplar. What a disgrace. May Madame Song block you. Once the 2 flamboyant women had left, Sun Xiaohu wept for an extended period, covering his face. Upon glancing at his phone, a sudden thought struck him. I must report this. I must confess. I shall ensure my brother faces justice and those 2 women reform. He hastily dialed the police, but when a voice on the other end greeted him, Hello? A jolt coursed through his mind, akin to a balloon losing air. All feelings of shame, humiliation, regret, and self-reproach evaporated. Hello, is there an issue? The voice inquired. Sun Xiaohu, noticing the alarming digits displayed on his screen, panicked and abruptly hung up. Heavens above, how could a criminal like me voluntarily report a crime? What had possessed him moments ago to entertain such nonsensical thoughts, yearning for atonement, even deeming his money as filthy? How could money be vile? A shiver ran down Sun Xiaohu's spine, and he dared not share this incident with his brother. If his brother discovered that he had nearly confessed and inadvertently implicated him, it would spell disaster. Dragging his aching body, he limped back to bed. In the trash bin behind him lay a disposable takeout box, licked clean, alongside several gnawed pork bones and half a leftover red chili pepper. Xiaolon had miscalculated. Who would have known that Sun Xiaohu suffered from hemorrhoids and could not tolerate spice? Yet, due to the exquisite taste of the chili provided by Xiaolon, he had risked rectal fissures to consume an entire bag of spicy condiments. However, he lacked the courage to finish that whole red chili pepper. After biting into half, he discarded the remainder. This had ultimately hindered the full effect of the reformed little chili pepper. Just a hair's breadth away from ensnaring himself, the following day, Xiaolon encountered Sun Xiaohu again, who had come to purchase pig trotters. To his surprise, Sun Xiaohu appeared battered, as if he had been assaulted. Particularly striking were the distinct handprints on his face, which were so pronounced that even a mask could not conceal them. Xiaolon refrained from probing further. Casting a discreet glance at the red warning light on the snack cart, confirming it was indeed the same suspect from the day prior. As Sun Xiaohu packed his order, Xiaolon eagerly produced a packet of prepared condiments, comprising his specially chopped reformed little chili pepper, blended with regular chili oil. Pig trotters pair splendidly with spicy sauce. He proclaimed, However, Sun Xiaohu raised his large hand to block Xiao Lan's generous offering. No, no, I cannot handle spice. Thank you, vendor. He vehemently declined, saliva pooling at the corners of his mouth. He was aware that pig trotters complemented the secret chili sauce exquisitely, enhancing the flavor manifold. The intensity of the spiciness was such that while his upper lip could endure, his lower lip could not. The momentary pleasure of consumption was soon eclipsed by the agony of subsequent repercussions, akin to a fiery inferno, leaving him on the brink of calling for emergency assistance. To avoid experiencing such torment once more, he resolved to forego further temptations, refusing to test his resilience against allure. However, Xiao Lan remained oblivious to Sun Xiaohu's inner turmoil. Suspecting instead that he had inadvertently revealed his true self, an unsettling feeling gripped his heart, while his visage betrayed no emotion, his mind swirling in chaos. Had he genuinely developed an aversion to the spicy peppers after a taste, or had he discerned some hidden truth about them? Were the injuries on the suspect's face somehow linked to the peppers? Uncertain, he concluded that the only way to ascertain the truth was to conduct a test. Glancing at the untouched peppers in his hand, he recalled the gluttonous old man at home, robust as an ox, and with a mischievous grin. He resolved that he would be the one. After all, this was a treasure worth 500 points, not to be squandered. That evening, under Xiao Lan's cunning pretense of concern, the old man successfully consumed the entire packet of peppers. Xiao Lan attentively monitored his reactions, eventually concluding that the old man merely patted his stomach and let out a satisfied belch, proclaiming, "I'm still hungry." Xiao Lan's expression shifted dramatically. That's it. The old man remained unchanged in his ways. It appeared that the transformative power of the diminutive chili pepper was rather negligible. In the deep hours of the night, at 2 o'clock, Xiao Lan was abruptly awakened by the sound of weeping. Chapter 37. You suspect, yet you dare to urge a plainclothes officer to take action. Upon switching on the light, he was astonished to find the old man, unable to sleep, curled up on the sofa, clutching a tissue and sobbing uncontrollably. What's wrong? What's the matter? Xiao Lan rushed over, filled with concern. Wah, I suddenly feel such a heavy burden on my conscience. Xiao Lan's eyes widened. Could it be that the diminutive chili had indeed worked its magic? He pressed for details. What's troubling you? Speak up. The old man was blissfully unaware that his emotions were being manipulated. He felt an overwhelming urge to confess all the wrongs he had ever committed. Wah, I recall my youth, when I made several mistakes. I have wronged my family. Xiao Lan could hardly contain his astonishment, sensing that the old man was about to divulge something significant. Could this be something he was meant to hear? He quickly retrieved a packet of sunflower seeds and found a trash can to place between his legs, urging, "Go on, continue." With tissues in hand, the old man wept and confessed. One winter, the weather was so frigid that even urine would freeze. I took my son to visit a friend, and after drinking to excess, when it was time to return home, my friend's wife insisted I stay. She said it was too cold for the child, and urged me to sleep on their heated bed. Xiao Lan's pace of shelling sunflower seeds quickened, exclaiming, "You older generations certainly had your share of adventures." And then? He prompted eagerly. Then, I committed a mistake that every man in the world would make. The old man sobbed, his breath hitching. Xiao Lan wondered. Could it be the sort of error he was thinking? Elaborate. I was desperate to relieve myself in the middle of the night, too lazy to venture outside, and I couldn't help but urinate in the bed. I once believed it was merely a dream, until I felt a chill beneath me and realized I had indeed wet the bed. In a moment of desperation, I swiftly accused my son of the deed, summoning him to deliver a series of blows. Oh, how I regret my actions towards my son. I am truly sorry, dear brother. I soiled both of their blankets, leaving them to endure a winter wrapped in the stench of urine. Xiao Lan paused in his seed spitting, a kernel lodged between his front teeth. Is this truly it? Your cleverness astounds me. Observing the remaining half of the seeds in his hand, Xiao Lan, undeterred, pressed on. Do you not have any other misdeeds to confess? Indeed, I do. Oh, woe is me. Xiao Lan excitedly handed all his seeds to the old man, taking a handful for himself. Now, do not rush. Speak slowly. When I first entered the city, I was dazzled by its splendor and unwittingly committed a foolish act. This time, Xiao Lan refrained from letting his mind wander. He was aware that the old man had a penchant for dramatic pauses. With composure, he continued to crack seeds. What foolish act did you commit? Unfamiliar with the city's reeds, I did not realize that in the city, the deceased are honored not with theatrical performances, but with flowers. Seeing so many flowers discarded seemed a waste, so I took a wreath home as a surprise for my wife. However, upon her return from work, she unleashed a torrent of curses, denouncing whoever could be so heartless and lacking in conscience to play such a prank. Sensing the gravity of the situation, I quickly removed my shoes and struck my son, demanding to know why he had brought such items home. Xiao Lan mused. This old man's son must be his nemesis from a past life. With a father like this, he surely suffers greatly. To my astonishment, the old man had not yet exhausted his confessions. One guilty secret followed another. Furthermore, there was an occasion during the new year when I returned to my hometown and saw other children playing with firecrackers, which ignited a yearning within me. Though I felt too old to join, I covertly indulged myself. Mimicking the children, I tossed a firecracker into the latrine. reasoning that the well-ventilated dry toilet would prevent an explosion. Little did I know that just then, Uncle Air was inside, and as the firecracker landed, it exploded, covering him in excrement. Thankfully, he assumed it was my son's doing and emerged to chastise him. I dared not reveal the truth and followed suit in the scolding. Thus, to the rhythm of Xiao Lan cracking seeds, the old man recounted over 30 years of mischief directed at his son. Each incident was deserving of its own volume. Perhaps titled The Wronged Son's Burdened Father. Xiao Lan, moved, remarked, "It is truly a miracle your son has survived this long. While others may burden their fathers, you have uniquely managed to burden your son." It was only after enduring the sting of his remorse that the old man's conscience finally awakened, prompting him to consider turning himself in. Xiao Lan quickly intervened. No, there's no need to involve the police. This does not constitute a crime, and we wouldn't want to disturb the officer's rest. After a gentle admonition, the old man relinquished that thought, yet he continued to weep softly until dawn. Xiao Lan felt a mix of sympathy and a sense of deserved consequence for the old man. Simultaneously, he was relieved to discover that the effects of remorse could be so profound. A small transgressor indeed. The following day, the old man wept to the point of dehydration. Unable to rise from his bed, Xiao Lan felt a twinge of guilt and made a special effort to prepare more food for Lao Deng. He remained behind to observe, ensuring that the other man was well before departing. However, this delay resulted in a tardy arrival at the market. Upon reaching the venue, the patrons regarded him with eyes filled with reproach. "Vendor, how could you do this to us? We have finished work, yet you have yet to start." "Indeed. We've been waiting. We are starving and have been here for half an hour. I arrived early. I've been waiting for an hour. Promise me, vendor, that you will be punctual in the future. If not, just bring the stall over and then return home to sleep." Upon closer inspection, Xiao Lan noticed Sun Xiaohu among the crowd, joining in the chorus of complaints directed at him. A suspect, urging Xiao Lan to set up his stall, nearly made him laugh out loud. He wondered what expression Sun Xiaohu would wear if he ever learned that Xiao Lan was an undercover police officer. The other patrons continued their grievances, suggesting that Xiao Lan's tardiness was far worse than standing someone up on a date. "Vendor, do you even check the group chat? There are hundreds of messages directed at you. If you cannot set up, please inform us via the group announcement." Before the speaker could finish, he was interrupted by others. "Bah, what a jinx. How could the vendor not show up? That is absolutely unacceptable. Without your pig's trotters, my work loses all meaning." Surrounding voices echoed in agreement. Yes, vendor, take my money. Just give me my pig's trotters. Can I get a monthly pass? No, a yearly pass. Xiao Lan, feeling somewhat sheepish, touched his nose and glanced at Sun Xiaohu in the crowd. If he could successfully apprehend Sun Xiaohu and the individuals behind him, perhaps he wouldn't need to set up a stall anymore. My sincerest apologies, everyone. Chapter 38, A Citywide Crackdown. Xiao Lan cleared his throat. "I genuinely apologize. It was my mistake. To make amends, I have prepared a special secret sauce. It pairs wonderfully with the pig's trotters. Supplies are limited. Please form a line to collect." This was, of course, a special preparation for Sun Xiaohu, who was not fond of spicy condiments. Thus, Xiao Lan crushed some chili peppers to create a sauce, which he included with the trotters. The dark sauce, hiding bits of crushed chili, was entirely acceptable. In preparing a gift for one, Xiao Lan ended up catering to the many. While others received the standard sauce, only Sun Xiaohu was given the enhanced version. Once Sun Xiaohu discovers the truth, he shall surely be touched. Under Xiao Lan's friendly gaze, Sun Xiaohu happily accepted his exclusive sauce. "Vendor, you truly know how to please your customers. Selling pig's trotters with delightful surprises. It was worth the hour I waited." Xiao Lan responded with a beaming smile. "I am glad you like it." Later that night, as Sun Xiaohu reveled in bliss, he suddenly jolted awake. Tumbling out of bed, he helplessly clutched his chest, his trembling finger pointing at the woman lying beside him. "How could you do this?" the woman replied. Sun Xiaohu covered his face, weeping softly. "This is immoral. It is illegal. You must leave immediately, or I shall call the police." The woman retorted, "Do you hear yourself? Do you think I would pretend innocence while my legs are still wide open? Enough." In despair, Sun Xiaohu clasped his ears, shaking his head vigorously. "How repulsive. I refuse to listen. I shall not listen." The woman trembled with rage. "Oh, look at you. Indulged in vice, yet trying to feign purity. Go ahead, call the police. I dare you. Hello, 110? I want to report that the Flower World Foot Bath establishment offers illicit services." The woman was taken aback, her eyes nearly popping out. "Are you actually calling? You must be insane. You're dragging yourself down with this." She attempted to snatch the phone, but her hands and feet were bound together, leaving her to scuttle sideways off the bed like a crab in a desperate attempt to flee. Sun Xiaohu seized the rope binding her, proclaiming with righteous fervor, "Officer, I am on the 3rd floor in the water spirit room. Hurry. I've locked all the escape routes. Not a single lawbreaker shall get away. Let me protect myself. Scoundrels like me deserve whatever befalls them. Indeed, I just finished my debauchery, and I feel utterly virtuous. Come, take me away too. I can't wait to be reformed in prison." The bound woman on the floor wore a face of utter despair. "Wait, brother, is this truly your moment of enlightenment?" A chorus of voices echoed, V5V5. As the Flower World foot bath was subject to a surprise inspection, A stout figure stood proudly at the entrance, spotting the familiar uniforms and rushing forward to shake hands. Comrades, you've finally arrived. I've locked all the stairway exits. None shall escape. Furthermore, there are hidden doors inside for those who couldn't flee in time. I've been there and can show you the way. Old Lou, who had his arm linked with this fervent individual, was utterly bewildered. He had a faint inkling that Sun Xiaohu resembled a suspect from another case. Yet the man's righteous demeanor made him hesitate to affirm it. May I inquire which police unit you belong to? Or are you an undercover journalist? Sun Xiaohu shook his head. Neither. I am merely a reformed client, full of newfound conscience. The expressions of everyone present, provided they weren't hard of hearing, split wide in disbelief. A collective gasp erupted, while the silence from those who did not speak was deafening. Under Sun Xiaohu's guidance, the police successfully apprehended the owner, staff, and hidden clients of the Flower World foot bath. Several police cars were filled to capacity, and when they ran out of space, they had to temporarily commandeer a bus to transport the detainees. It was only at this moment that old Lou began to grasp the reality of the situation, realizing that this self-proclaimed reformed client was not merely toying with them. Suddenly inspired, old Lou inquired, "Do you know of any other establishments engaging in such transactions?" Sun Xiaohu pounded his chest triumphantly. "Of course. I used to revel in excess, having frequented every kind of establishment. These locations are all under surveillance. Each time the police conduct large-scale crackdowns, they notify each other in their groups and retreat to safe havens. Only after your departure do they send messages for everyone to return, which is why you are unable to apprehend them. I will add you to the group. It is filled with seasoned informants, and they can be caught without fail." Old Lou forcibly suppressed the corners of his mouth, contorting his entire face. "Do you know where these safe places are? You must know. Who do you think you're looking down on?" Old Lou trembled as he reported the information to his superior. The captain was overjoyed, nearly tumbling from his chair. "My goodness, a big catch. A golden opportunity presented itself. Quickly, collaborate with other police divisions for a citywide crackdown. Prepare 3, no, 5 buses." Haha. With the advancement of technology, information spreads too rapidly. In recent years, the police have encountered numerous new obstacles in their efforts to combat vice. Often, they manage to capture a few small fish, while the rest flee upon receiving warnings. These establishments are like cunning rabbits with multiple burrows. No matter how many times the police strike, they only suffer superficial wounds. It won't be long before they resurrect. There are even instances, as mentioned by Sun Xiaohu. As soon as the police leave, the patrons continue their escapades, resuming the music and dance. Today, technology is both a boon and a bane. With Sun Xiaohu's cooperation, the police first stormed the Dragon's Den, directly raiding establishments offering special services and apprehending a batch of individuals. Subsequently, they deployed smoke bombs and disseminated alerts in their groups, warning of a large-scale inspection during the early hours, urging everyone to take refuge in safe houses. The police lay in wait at these safe havens, ready to catch another group. Once they had captured a substantial number, they sent out misleading information, claiming the police had departed and would not return, enticing everyone to resume operations with an enticing discount. As these establishments relaxed their vigilance and reopened, the police executed a surprise counterattack, apprehending them with precision. That night, the police advanced with unstoppable momentum, nearly filling all 5 buses, leaving the detention center overcrowded. The patrons could only stand at the entrance, waiting for their families to come and retrieve them. The entire police force was motivated by performance, alleviating concerns for year-end evaluations. As dawn broke, they barely managed to catch their breath, knowing more work lay ahead. Old Lou felt a sense of satisfaction, patting Sun Xiaohu on the shoulder and saying, "Kid, well done. Though you have erred, at least you recognized your mistakes early. How about this? There's no place to detain you now, and you've contributed positively. Just complete a registration and pay a fine of 5,000, and we'll let it go. Be a good person moving forward." Sun Xiaohu nodded in eager compliance. "All right. I'll head back. When you have time, officer, I'll tell you about my smuggling activities." Old Lou's mind raced, and he quickly called after him. "Wait. What smuggling? You're looking more familiar by the moment." Chapter 39. Just let me have a taste. Just one bite. I promise I won't eat again. Sun Xiaohu was just about to honestly confess all his illegal activities when suddenly, dawn broke, and his resolve to turn over a new leaf crumbled entirely. A thunderbolt seemed to strike his mind, abruptly awakening him. The demeanor of righteousness and moral integrity that once enveloped him dissipated, leaving behind a sense of both lewdness and timidity. Old Lou immediately perceived the shift in Sun Xiaohu's expression. Sun Xiaohu took a few seconds to recollect the events of the entire evening, recalling how he had gallantly led the police to apprehend his dubious friends in one fell swoop. He was drenched in sweat, a far cry from his previous composure and calmness, now reduced to a state of panic akin to a mouse encountering a cat. I think I should take my leave." Old Lou seized his wrist firmly. "Not so fast. Didn't you say you would divulge the smuggling details? Now that I have the time, we can discuss it at length." Sun Xiaohu was on the verge of revealing his true colors under the blinding light of justice. He forced a smile and stammered, "Sir, I was merely joking. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Didn't you just say you would let me go? You can't go back on your word." Old Lu chuckled coldly. Earlier, he had hesitated to acknowledge him, but with this sudden change in demeanor, he instantly recognized him as one of the two prized catches in their joint operation. Previously, they had lacked evidence and refrained from acting to avoid alerting their targets. Now, however, he had delivered himself right to their doorstep. Furthermore, this particular fish seemed rather chatty and easy to pry open. How could old Lu possibly let him slip away? Returning home can wait. You've had quite the exhausting night. Stay for a cup of tea. The malicious grin on old Lu's face was nearly impossible to conceal. Someone, prepare an interrogation room for our brother Xiaohu. We must treat him well. Trembling and on the verge of tears, son Xiaohu pleaded, please, brother, no. I just want to go home and brew my own tea. Meanwhile, Xiaolan frantically dialed old Lu's number. But all she received was a woman's voice on the other end. The number you have dialed is switched off. What was happening? Was old Lu's phone actually unavailable? She wanted to inquire whether the criminal had called to surrender last night. On second thought, it was likely that he hadn't tea. If Sun Xiaohu had turned himself in, old Lu would have already called to inform her that there was no need for her to set up a stall anymore, as the perpetrator had been brought to justice. Moreover, the system had not registered any alerts. How strange. Could it be that the little pepper, having turned over a new leaf, was ineffective against actual criminals? Or was it that the suspect had simply not consumed any? Lost in thought, a sudden chime echoed in her mind. 30 Class D criminals apprehended, capture successful. Reward, 150. 000 yuan and 500 points. Keep up the good work. 300 Class E criminals apprehended, capture successful. Reward, 300, 000 yuan and 3,000 points. Keep up the good work. The unexpected notification left Xiaolan no time to process her astonishment before the text message arrived. A total of 450, 000 yuan had been directly deposited into her bank account. Coupled with the previous 350, 000, she was now a woman with 800, 000 yuan in savings. This is surely sufficient for a down payment on a property in the city center. Xiaolan could hardly believe it. He felt as though he had accomplished nothing, merely setting up a stall for a week. If one were to insist that he had done something, it would be feeding the suspect 2 little spicy peppers of redemption. Could the results be this astonishing? Who exactly are these 30 D-class criminals and 300 E-class ones? The numbers are simply staggering. Regardless, it is of no consequence. Since there has been no notification from above, he shall continue to operate his stall. After all, he has prepared his pig trotters. At 11:30 in the morning, Officer Lu and several professionals responsible for interrogations had spent the entire morning questioning Sun Xiaohu, yet he remained utterly silent. In truth, Sun Xiaohu's will was on the brink of collapse. He had not slept a wink the previous night and had been interrogated since 6 in the morning. He was nearing his breaking point. However, the officers were also on the verge of exhaustion, having endured an all-nighter while dealing with over 300 indecent cases. It could be said that both sides were equally matched in their mental fortitude. It was merely a matter of who would yield first. On the wall, the second hand ticked away relentlessly as the hour and minute hands inched closer to 12. With the passage of time, Sun Xiaohu grew increasingly agitated, and upon reaching a certain threshold, his emotions unraveled. He clutched his head, weeping and wailing, pounding the table, tears streaming down his face, his feet kicking wildly. I confess. I will reveal everything. But before I do, I implore you, let me have just one more pig trotter. Just one, please. I fear that if I confess, I might never have the chance to eat one again. Please, let me have a taste. Just a bite. My heart itches. It feels as if ants are crawling on me. What if I can never enjoy it again? Please. It was now the time for the pig trotter vendor to set up shop. He needed to hurry, or he would miss out. This sudden outburst startled the officers interrogating him, leaving them bewildered. Those unaware might have thought he was suffering from withdrawal. One officer, perplexed, asked his colleague, pig trotters? Is that some code for a new type of drug? The other officer shook his head, equally clueless. Yet, witnessing Sun Xiaohu's convulsions, tears, and drool, he resembled someone in the throes of addiction. Consequently, the officers slammed their hands on the table, exclaiming, "You are already in custody and still thinking about that nonsense. Let me be clear, abandon that thought. Either confess to your smuggling or admit to your drug use." Sun Xiaohu, with a face full of grievance, replied, "Sir, you cannot wrongfully accuse me. Who is using drugs? I abhor gambling and drugs. I merely wish to indulge in a delicious pig trotter from the stall at the park entrance before I face imprisonment. Is that so wrong? Can't one have a decent meal before facing the end?" Outside the interrogation room, Officer Lu, on the verge of dozing off while listening to the surveillance audio, was jolted awake. Pig trotters. He rushed into the interrogation room, exclaiming, "You mean to say that if you can have pig trotters, you will divulge everything you know, correct?" Sun Xiaohu wiped his mouth, tears in his eyes, and replied, "Yes. Hurry, or they will sell out." Officer Lu quickly retrieved his phone, eager to call Xiaolan and have him deliver the coveted dish. However, upon retrieving his phone, he discovered it was out of battery. This was entirely due to their vigorous efforts last night in apprehending clients, during which they relied on walkie-talkies and neglected to charge their phones. Upon returning, he was preoccupied with registering the clients and interrogating Sun Xiaohu, leaving no time to check his phone. Lao Lu uttered, "Wait for me," and hurriedly stepped out to charge his device. Once the phone powered on, he immediately noticed several missed calls from Xiaolan. He promptly attempted to return the call, but although the line connected, no one answered. Calculating the timing, it was precisely when Xiaolan was setting up his stall. He must be exceedingly busy at the moment, with no time for his phone. Chapter 40. The newcomer. Do you understand the rules of buying pig trotters? Cue up. Lao Lu's assumption was not entirely accurate, yet not wholly incorrect either. In truth, Xiaolan was rather unoccupied, as the customers diligently made their purchases without requiring his attention. However, he truly had no leisure to engage with his phone. His focus was entirely on observing his surroundings, anticipating Sun Xiaohu's arrival. It was puzzling. Why hadn't he shown up at this hour? Ever since his initial visit, he had been punctual, often arriving half an hour early to queue without the constraints of a clock-in time. Unable to reach Xiaolan, Lao Lu resorted to contacting Lia Si, who was also vending at the entrance of the park. Are you at your stall? Good. Stop what you're doing and head to Xiaolan's place immediately to buy a few pig trotters. Lia Si replied, Huh? So I'm abandoning my business with the pancakes? Lao Lu, exasperated, retorted, Honestly, do you even have customers? You barely make any sales. The ham sausages and lettuce are all consumed by you. Do you think I'm unaware? Lia Si quickly pleaded, Please don't scold me. I'll go right away. He had intended to inquire why the captain wanted him to fetch pig trotters from Xiaolan, but he dared not ask any further. Hastily hanging up, he pedaled his tricycle towards Xiaolan's location. Lia Si's vending spot was at the east gate of the park, which, to his recollection, had always been rather desolate. Furthermore, the business seemed to grow more dismal with each passing day, and the number of vendors dwindled. He had never pondered the reasons behind this, simply attributing it to the workers in the park not enjoying purchasing food from outside. However, upon arriving at the west gate of the park, a mere 100 meters away, he was astonished by the scene before him. Countless food stalls lined the area, as if all the vendors from the park's other 3 gates had migrated to the west gate. This was no illusion, for Lia Si recognized familiar faces among the bustling crowd. Notably, he spotted a pancake vendor who had once set up alongside him at the east gate. Due to Lia Si's lackluster skills, that vendor had even offered him guidance in the past. When the vendor noticed Lia Si approaching on his tricycle, his expression shifted to one of complexity. He greeted Lia Si. So you've come to set up shop here as well? Lia Si scratched his head. Yes. I suppose so. The vendor hesitated momentarily before finally saying, Young brother, I earnestly advise you to change your profession. With your skills, there will be no customers, regardless of where you set up your stall. Lia Si chuckled awkwardly, refraining from responding, and instead inquired, Are you selling here? This spot seems rather distant from the entrance. Will customers really come all the way here? Of course, the vendor gestured. Look, the line stretches all the way here. Lia Si was taken aback. What are they buying? The line is interminably long. He could barely discern what they were queuing for. The vendor kindly replied, Braised pig trotters. Every noon, everyone in the park rushes here to purchase them. The queue is quite long. The supply is limited, and some people inevitably leave empty-handed, opting to fill their stomachs at other stalls instead. We are counting on those who miss out on the trotters to patronize us. Additionally, some people, unable to bear their hunger while waiting in line, will buy snacks to eat as they queue. Lia Si was dumbfounded, unable to believe his eyes. Surely, the trotters they sought couldn't be the ones sold by Xiaolan. No wonder Xiaolan had been so busy every time Lia Si called him this week, inviting him for barbecued meals. With such thriving business, how could he not be overwhelmed? Momentarily, Lia Si found himself unsure whether Xiaolan's main occupation was as a police officer or as a vendor. There was no time for contemplation. His curiosity compelled him to move closer. The nearer he got, the more astonished he became. He initially thought there was only one line, but soon realized there were 2, forming queues in opposite directions. The vendors claimed that the entire factory came to queue for trotters was no exaggeration. The line nearly encircled the entire park. It was only because Lia Si was stationed at the east gate, in the opposite direction, that he had not seen the end of the line. Goodness! How much could he possibly earn in a day? When he finally confirmed that the end of the line belonged to Xiaolan, panic surged within him. He suddenly felt as though he might lose Xiaolan. With such a lucrative business skill, would Xiaolan still wish to remain a police officer? Without Xiaolan, who had always been at the tail end of the police force, wouldn't Lia Si find himself at the very bottom? It was a paradox of fearing for his brother's struggles while simultaneously worrying about his brother's success. At that moment, Xiaolan's gaze met Lia Si's from a distance. Having been keenly observant of the unusual circumstances around him, he immediately recognized a familiar face. A look of confusion crossed Xiaolan's features, and he quickly lowered his head to message Lia Si. What are you doing here? Lia Si's phone vibrated, and he promptly replied, Old Lu sent me. He wants to eat the trotters you make. Xiaolan slowly typed a question mark. Only then did Xiaolan notice the missed calls on his phone. Old Lu had called him just for the trotters? Isn't Old Lu the one who advised us to keep our identities and our relations concealed? Lia Si was equally puzzled, but before he could respond, Xiaolan sent another message. Forget it, just come and take it. We only need to follow orders. Old Lu has much more to consider, Lia Si remarked, finding merit in Xiaolan's words as he quickly rode over. Yet, after merely 2 meters, he was met with the piercing gazes of other food stall owners. Hey, newcomer, do you understand the rules of business? Arriving early means claiming the prime spots. You're too late. Go to the back of the line. Leah C. hurriedly replied, I'm not here to set up a stall. I'm looking for someone. Puffed, who would believe that? Aren't you selling pancakes? Realizing he was at a disadvantage riding his food cart, Leah C. hastily sought a spot to park before approaching Xiaolon. However, after just a couple of steps, he was intercepted again. This time, it was a customer. Hey, newcomer. Do you know the rules for buying pig trotters? Arriving early allows you to queue at the front. You're late. Go to the back. Leah C. tried to explain, I know the stall owner. Puffed, who would believe that? I could claim the stall owner is my brother. No cutting in line. Around him, the diners cast disdainful, hostile glances at Leah C., as if daring him to take a single step forward. Stuck in a stalemate. He could only message Xiaolon. Forget it, just save me a few. I'll queue at the back. Your customers are too fierce. I'm afraid cutting in line would lead to a brawl. Chapter 41, A Brother-esque Gift. A pair of rose gold handcuffs. Leah C. had no intention of risking his life for old Lu's culinary cravings. He decided to let old Lu wait. It couldn't be that urgent, could it? Yet, after about 10 minutes in line, he received a barrage of frantic calls from old Lu. Did you get the pig trotters? Are you on your way to the police station? I've been waiting for you outside for ages. Sweat trickled down Leah C.'s forehead. I'm still in line. Still in line. Old Lu's voice was almost at the breaking point. This is an emergency. The suspect is waiting to eat. Leah C. was taken aback. Are we really providing such fine dining for criminals at the police station now? This seems excessively humane. Bordering on irrational. However, old Lu did not grant him the opportunity to question further, urgently insisting, hurry to Xiaolon and get them. I want to see you at the police station within 10 minutes. Otherwise, you'll have to deal with the consequences. With that, he hung up. Leah C., internally exclaiming in frustration, dashed towards Xiaolon. The customers attempting to stop him were caught off guard, and he left them behind in his wake. The police department's physical fitness was indeed the pinnacle for an ordinary person. Xiaolon, quickly give me the pig trotters. There is no time to explain, hurry. Leah C. gasped as he spoke, and Xiaolon could hardly comprehend his words. Yet, upon seeing the outstretched hand, he immediately complied. Leah C. snatched the bag containing the pig trotters and ran. The customers in line watched as he leaped onto his tricycle, pedaling furiously. They exclaimed in shock, wow? Has the boss's pig trotters become so popular that they are being robbed? I have heard of motorcycle robberies, but this is the first time I have encountered a robbery executed on a tricycle. Should we alert the authorities? This scoundrel made off with 3 items. That is a full 3. It takes 3 days of queuing just to acquire them. It's driving me to consider stealing as well. What should I do? Xiaolon was oblivious to Li Ac's urgency. However, 20 minutes later, the system's notification hinted at some developments. Ding. Detection of level a criminal has pleaded guilty. Apprehension effective. Reward, 100,000 yuan and 1,000 points. Keep up the good work. The system spoke of a confession rather than an arrest, suggesting that the police interrogation had yielded results. Sun Xiaohu had yet to arrive for his pig trotters. Perhaps he was apprehended early on. Meanwhile, having devoured 3 pig trotters in one go, Sun Xiaohu finally broke down in tears and confessed, I don't know much, but our factory's primary business involves the import and export of waste plastics. Initially, we conducted legitimate business, but later someone contacted my brother, asking him to assist with smuggling. These individuals were engaged in optical materials, and they requested that we clandestinely include some optical materials within the waste plastics we exported. Over 2 to 3 years, we probably dealt with several thousand tons and earned billions, though I'm unclear on the specifics. My brother managed the communications while I oversaw operations. As Sun Xiaohu spoke, he suddenly paused, repeatedly confirming with the interrogating officer. Sir, you aren't deceiving me, are you? If I cooperate fully, I might have a chance at a reduced sentence and can soon indulge in pig trotters again. Opposite him, Officer Lu opened his mouth, just as a stream of saliva trickled down the corner. Fortunately, he reacted swiftly, wiping it away and striking a thoughtful pose. We never deceive. Confess for leniency. Resist for severity. The more you disclose, the clearer it is, the more favorable it is for your application for a reduced sentence. Officer Lu spoke while swallowing hard. The interrogation room was simply too small, and the aroma of pig trotters lingered relentlessly. His colleague beside him tightly pursed his lips, not daring to relax for a moment. Heaven knows how much willpower they exerted to refrain from snatching the trotters while watching Sun Xiaohu relish them, unaware of their discomfort. Sun Xiaohu remained entrenched in the sorrow of not being able to enjoy pig trotters daily after his arrest. All right. I shall cooperate fully with the police to apprehend my brother and his accomplices. If I can secure a reduced sentence and be released sooner, I am willing to do anything. Far away in the electronics park, Sun Dalong suddenly sneezed. Wiping his nose, he muttered, How strange, who is mentioning me? Just then, his phone rang, displaying the name of his younger brother. Without hesitation, he answered, Hello, why didn't you come to the factory today? Even if you're not working, the staff needs your oversight. Sun Xiaohu interjected, Brother, where are you now? Where else could I be? In my office. All right, brother, stay put in the office. I have a surprise for you. What surprise? Mysteriously, not long after, the office door was kicked open. Don't move. Police. Sun Dalong attempted to flee. only to find himself trapped with no means of escape. Even as he was handcuffed, he could hardly believe that the surprise his brother had prepared for him was this. Rose gold handcuffs indeed. He had been betrayed by his own brother. The two siblings met at the police station, where son Xiaohu bowed his head. Brother, please don't blame me. I had no choice. The bribe they offered was simply too tempting. The authorities had taken control of the entire plastic factory, detaining all documents and workers within. However, the level of caution exhibited by Sun Dalong and his brother was not on the same plane. All the family's wits seemed to reside solely within him. The information available could implicate Sun Dalong, yet there was no evidence to connect him with any accomplices. The police interrogated him repeatedly, but he resolutely held his tongue, unwilling to divulge the identities of his partners in crime. His silence was not a matter of loyalty. Rather, he understood that revealing his accomplices would result in their criminal activities being combined with his own, leading to a more severe sentence and hefty fines. Criminals are not to be feared. What is truly daunting is a criminal who understands the law. Sun Dalong was a tough nut to crack. No matter how the police appealed to his emotions or reason, even resorting to intimidation, he remained obstinately mute, significantly hindering the investigation process. Frustrated, Officer Liu stepped outside, smoking one cigarette after another. Seeing this, a team leader seemed inclined to offer consolation, but his words fell flat. It's all right, Liu. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Capturing a few is already commendable. Although this operation was a joint effort with the smuggling bureau, the lack of substantial results made it less impressive. However, with the current constraints on detaining suspects, Officer Liu found the remarks uncomfortably dissonant. Don't celebrate too soon. I still have some aces up my sleeve. Aces? To be honest, Officer Liu wasn't certain what his trump card was. However, a method to elicit a confession from Sun Xiaohu might also prove effective with Sun Dalong. Thus, he retrieved his phone and dialed Xiaolon. Xiaolon. You need to rush back to the station right away. Chapter 42. What new form of torture? Locking people up to watch them eat. Understood. I'll be there immediately. When Xiaolon received the call, he was faced with a long queue of customers, with half a bucket of pig trotters still unsold. Although Officer Liu hadn't specified the urgency of the matter, his tone conveyed a sense of urgency. Xiaolon wasted no time, tidying up to leave. Vendor, are you closing up already? Isn't it a bit too early? I have urgent family matters to attend to. I must leave now. Xiaolon fabricated a quick excuse and departed amidst the reluctant gazes of his customers. Be sure to come back early tonight. We'll be waiting for you. At the Eastern District Police Station, as Xiaolan's tricycle approached within 5 meters, a wave of enticing aromas surged into the precinct like a tempest. Some patrons, embarrassed to seek help with their fines due to their families, remained detained. Throughout the day, they had subsisted on mere buns and steamed bread. Upon catching a whiff of the succulent pig trotters, tears streamed uncontrollably from my mouth. Is this truly our afternoon tea? Is the treatment at the police station this generous? I shall return. Some patrons, with fanciful imaginations, uttered their thoughts only to be met with a chorus of disdainful glances from others. What are you thinking? Do you still consider yourself a VIP from the heavens? Being offered a bite is already a generous gesture. Fortunately, some individuals possessed a greater awareness, understanding that these pig trotters were merely for their olfactory pleasure. Initially, a few officers failed to recognize Xiaolon when they approached to greet him. Their eyes widened in astonishment. Excuse me, esteemed guest, are you here to file a report? Upon hearing the thunderous growl emanating from the officer's stomach, Xiaolon graciously refrained from correcting his address. I am looking for old Liu. Upon hearing this name, the officer finally raised his gaze to meet Xiaolan's face. Oh, Xiaolon, it's you. Ahem, old Liu has been waiting for you for quite some time. The officer, suddenly awakened from his stupor, felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him, avoiding Xiaolan's eyes as he hurriedly led the way. When Xiaolon encountered old Liu outside the interrogation room, he promptly inquired, Captain, you summoned me back in haste. Is there something amiss? Old Liu was momentarily taken aback by the fragrant breeze that accompanied Xiaolan's approach, causing his throat to constrict. In that instant, all feelings of urgency vanished, and even his thoughts seemed to dissipate as he stumbled over his words. The reason for your summons is due to an emerging situation. What exactly this situation entails is a matter of concern. Analyzing the current circumstances, it was evident that the matter was far from simple. However, the degree of complexity required a more detailed examination. Observing the weary expressions and dark circles under the eyes of his colleagues, Xiaolon recognized that their resolve was at its weakest. Thus, he chose not to burden them further with the need for rationality. He straightforwardly asked, have you all had lunch? If not, I have half a bucket of pig trotters outside that can serve as our meal. The moment these words escaped his lips, the eyes of everyone around him sparkled with anticipation. Under normal circumstances, they might have exchanged pleasantries with Xiaolon, but after a day and night of relentless work without rest, their need for sustenance was paramount. Old Liu's mouth nearly watered at the thought. After longing for these pig trotters for so long, he finally had the chance to indulge. Thank you, Xiaolon. Old Liu was the first to dash outside, eager to claim the largest portion. The other officers initially stood in disbelief, but upon witnessing old Liu and several others eagerly dividing the meal, they wasted no time in joining the feast. Within 5 minutes, The air around the police station was filled with an enticing aroma. Passers-by several streets away couldn't help but lift their heads in curiosity. Where's that delightful scent coming from? Some unsuspecting pedestrians, caught off guard by the overpowering fragrance, stumbled in surprise. After regaining their composure, they muttered to themselves, should I go inside and report something, just to discover what is so enticing? The prisoners confined within the station were undoubtedly the most affected by this aromatic onslaught. They had thought being caught for solicitation and notifying their families was the worst fate imaginable, only to be blindsided by the police's unexpected generosity. It is utterly cruel to indulge in delectable dishes before their very eyes. To confine them while feasting on pig's trotters, what a novel form of torture. The essence lies not in striking or scolding them, but in purely tormenting their spirits. The weak-willed have already fallen to their knees, repeatedly bowing their heads, weeping profusely. I was wrong, I truly was. Please, spare me this torment. Just one bite, that is all I ask. I shall obey your every command. I will certainly turn over a new leaf. Hearing the prisoners' pleas, the officers are left in a state of helplessness. How could there possibly be enough pig's trotters to share? Some officers, too, yearn for a taste, but find themselves deprived. The act of gnawing on a pig's trotter lasts but a few fleeting moments. When the team leader catches a whiff of the enticing aroma and emerges from his office, those fortunate enough to have secured a trotters are already savoring the succulent bones. What is going on here? What are you consuming? The team leader inquires, suppressing the urge to join in the feast. Emerging from the gathering, a revitalized Officer Lou, his face aglow, struts about with an air of superiority. I hardly indulged much. I merely took a little something to reward everyone for their hard work. Nothing noteworthy, truly. In reality, it was Lou's first encounter with such delicacies, yet he insisted on exuding the demeanor of a seasoned connoisseur. While all members of the team managed to partake, only the team leader was left empty-handed. This thought brought a smile to Lou's face. Moreover, knowing that Xiaolan is his subordinate filled him with even greater delight. He patted Xiaolan on the shoulder, expressing his satisfaction. When you were assigned to our second squad, I wholeheartedly supported it. I knew you were talented. Although your assessment scores were slightly lacking, you must possess some undiscovered strengths. Xiaolan chuckled softly. Really? I find that hard to believe. In the original memory, it had not been quite so flattering. After being assigned 4 underperforming newcomers, Liu had stormed into the chief of the criminal investigation team's office in a fit of rage. Upon his exit, it was said that the floor of the chief's office gleamed as if polished. Nevertheless, he chose to remain silent about it. Now, having consumed the invigorating little apples, Xiaolan felt confident that he would not be at the bottom of the next assessment. At least in terms of physical fitness, his scores would surely improve. So, Captain, why did you call me back? Is there something urgent? Ah, yes. Urgent matters. Finally, Liu remembered the purpose of summoning Xiaolan. Pointing through the one-way glass at Sun Dalong in the interrogation room, he declared, this is the big fish we aim to catch in our joint fishing operation. Now that we have him, he remains tight-lipped and refuses to divulge his accomplices. We plan to tempt him with pig's trotters to coax him into speaking. Where are the trotters? Only then did Liu realize that the crucial interrogation prop, the pig's trotters, had vanished into the depths of their bellies. With a swift dash, he flung open the insulated container, only to find it utterly empty. His heart sank completely. How could you be so greedy? Who devoured them all? The others exchanged glances, silently questioning who had led this indulgence. Isn't it obvious? Chapter 43. I one tea eat. I truly one tea. Oh, it's so fragrant. Fortunately, Xiaolan had saved a few, intending to bring them back for the old man. Today, as circumstances are rather unique, so let us indulge the elderly gentleman a bit. He replicated the method, extracting a painfully reformed little chili pepper, crushing it within the confines of the bag. He evenly spread it across the pig's trotters. Subsequently, this culinary delight was presented in the interrogation room, placed before Sun Dalong. Would you care for a taste? Should you confess, this pig trotter shall be yours. As old Liu spoke, saliva nearly dripped onto the trotter. Having already tasted meat, he found himself unable to resist the temptation of the pig trotter even more vehemently now. However, to their astonishment, Sun Dalong merely displayed a fleeting flicker of interest in his eyes before sneering. How could I possibly compromise my position for a mere pig trotter? Dear sirs, are you naive or merely jesting in an attempt to lighten the mood? The two interrogating officers exchanged bewildered glances. How could this be? The aroma of the pig trotter was so enticing that they could hardly bear it. Sun Dalong's formidable willpower remained unyielding. Unbeknownst to them, Sun Dalong suffered from severe rhinitis. His nose served almost exclusively as an ornament. For others, the pig trotter was intoxicatingly fragrant. For him, it was merely visually appealing. It could be as fragrant as it wished while he remained unaffected. Sun Dalong had never tasted it before, so he was unaware of its true deliciousness. It was astonishing. His willpower was almost monstrous. Old Liu's eyes revealed a hint of trepidation. Xiaolan was also somewhat perplexed, unable to fathom how anyone could resist such culinary expertise. Perhaps, should we forcibly feed him a taste? Suggested Xiaolan. After a moment's contemplation, old Liu acquiesced to his proposal. 3 more officers strode confidently into the interrogation room. Sun Dalong scoffed. No matter how many of you there are, it is futile. I shall not speak. With a commanding shout, old Lu ordered, hold him down. The three officers restrained Sun Dalong by his shoulders, while one gripped his head, compelling him to tilt it back. What are you doing? Are you resorting to torture? This is illegal. I will report you. A flicker of panic finally crossed Sun Dalong's face as he struggled fiercely, his eyes reflecting a desperate madness. Come on, strike me. If you do, I will report you. You are breaking the law. One officer forcefully shoved the glistening, steaming, soft, and tender pig trotter into his mouth. You shall not. Mumble, mumble. A minute later, amidst the sounds of smacking, he exclaimed, oh my, how delightful. Sun Dalong reveled in the flavors, an ecstatic grin spreading across his face. He slumped into the chair, utterly relaxed, having transformed inside and out into the very essence of the pig trotter. The three officers, who had restrained him, released their grip, and he eagerly grasped the trotter with his handcuffed hands, savoring every morsel. The 5 onlookers watched, their mouths watering uncontrollably. After finishing the pig trotter, the satisfaction on Sun Dalong's face evaporated, replaced by anguish and regret. No, the effects of the drug had not manifested so swiftly. He lamented that had he known the pig trotter was so delectable, he should have accompanied Sun Xiaohu in queuing to purchase it. No wonder my younger brother is so infatuated. It turns out that these pig trotters are truly irresistible. I long to indulge in another. Observing Sun Dalong's expression of unfulfilled desire, laughter erupted from the crowd, a cacophony of cackles. Do you wish for another? If so, reveal your accomplices. Confession brings leniency. Resistance brings severity. By atoning for your sins, you may earn a reduction in your sentence and be able to enjoy pig trotters once more. This was how they coerced Sun Xiaohu into divulging everything. However, Sun Dalong merely licked his lips and scoffed. Useless. I am not my foolish brother. I will not. In the next moment, tears welled in his eyes. Shame, pain, regret, frustration, reflection, and guilt. An array of complex emotions played across his face all at once. Suddenly, a fervent impulse surged within him, compelling him to confess all his wrongdoings. I truly deserve punishment. I am guilty. Hearing the familiar beginning, old Lu's eyes brightened, hastily activating the recording device while instructing his subordinates to prepare the documentation. Xiaolan, observing closely, witnessed the effectiveness of the regretful pepper. Of course, only he knew that Sun Dalong had consumed this pepper. Others assumed he had a sudden awakening of conscience. For the following 2 hours, Sun Dalong recounted every misdeed from his youth, spilling his secrets like beans from a bag. Initially, the audience listened attentively, but as time passed, impatience grew. Can you not get to the point? Tell us about your smuggling activities. Certainly, sir. Thus, another hour passed as Sun Dalong elaborated on how he expanded his smuggling enterprise, detailing every nuance of his entrepreneurial journey. Listeners felt as though they could easily replicate his success if they followed suit. Ahem, that's enough. You've provided ample detail regarding smuggling. Now, who were your partners in crime? Just as it seemed they were reaching a crucial moment, Sun Dalong fell silent. Xiaolan was taken aback. Had the effect worn off? It seemed implausible, as the old man had endured an entire night. After persistent questioning, Sun Dalong finally spoke again. Sir, I merely got carried away in a moment of impulsive regret. I haven't lost my wits. Revealing my partners would be detrimental to me, and I shall not do so. The officers present were left dumbfounded. This was indeed a tangled situation. Xiaolan was also stunned, as he suddenly realized something. The regretful pepper had a flaw. While it did induce a sense of guilt and a desire for reform, it did not guarantee that offenders would confess. Much like individuals who, after indulging themselves, are filled with remorse and vow never to repeat their actions, yet refuse to delete incriminating materials from their devices, insisting they will not watch them. Therefore, the regretful pepper is not infallible. It cannot ensure that criminals will fully submit to justice. Xiaolan quickly sought to test the effects of the sincere mushroom. In the product description, it is stated that the mushroom of genuine emotion serves the purpose of allowing an individual to shed their disguise and reveal their true self. Uncertain whether Sun Dalong would speak the truth after consuming the mushroom, Xiaolan discreetly ventured out to procure one. After crushing it through a plastic bag, he applied it onto a pig's trotter. It only dawned on him afterward that while chili can be consumed raw, mushrooms seem to be toxic when uncooked. Since it is a product from the system, it should be safe, right? Chapter 44. Some vendors turn around, and it becomes a lifetime with a tinge of guilt. Xiaolan returned with the pig's trotter and placed it on the table. Before he could utter a word, Sun Dalong, seeing it so close, abruptly snatched the trotter and devoured it voraciously. As he ate, he proclaimed, I am guilty, I am guilty. I truly deserve to die, but it is just too delicious. Old Lu, unable to intervene in time, stamped his foot in frustration, exclaiming, damn it, I haven't even made my demands yet, and he's already eating. Xiaolan cleared his throat, silently gazing at the sky, reassuring himself, he took it upon himself to eat it. If he ends up with a stomachache, it is not my concern. As they approached the end of their shift, the mushroom of genuine emotion seemed to finally take effect. Sun Dalong's guilt vanished, and he suddenly adopted a different demeanor. He burst into laughter, leaning back with arrogance, defiantly raising his chin towards the police. Hey, I heard your monthly salary is only 2 to 3,000. What are you even trying to achieve here? I know you want to extract confessions from me. But no chance. You think you can intimidate me? Come at me. I have already consulted with a lawyer. The evidence you possess might only land me a 10-year sentence. But a decade later, I'll emerge as a new man. I have even arranged for my finances abroad. The money is in a virtual account that you cannot trace. Once I'm out, I'll continue living freely while you simmer in envy. The onlookers clenched their fists in frustration. How I wish to knock him down. How can he be so arrogant? Was his previous demeanor all an act? Is this truly his real face? He has revealed his innermost thoughts. Xiaolon finally understood the efficacy of the mushroom of genuine emotion. It indeed stripped away pretense, yet it appeared ineffective in the interrogation process, merely raising everyone's blood pressure. As night fell and the lengthy interrogation wore on, fatigue began to set in. However, this was a significant operation organized by the Joint Anti-Smuggling Bureau, and its importance was undeniable. Initially, the Bureau had discovered smuggling cases involving optoelectronic materials in various locations. Through meticulous investigation, they painstakingly sifted through clues day and night, eventually isolating useful information. They then relayed the most likely suspects to the Dongqing branch of Fengling City. Essentially, all preliminary work had been completed, tackling the most challenging part. Now it was up to old Liu and his team to wrap things up. Failing to do so would render them a laughingstock in the industry. Even if it meant working overtime through the night, they were determined to extract information about accomplices from other provinces from Sun Dalong. At this hour, Xiaolon would typically be setting up his stall. However, now that the suspect has been apprehended, the necessity for street vending has dissipated. The pressing concern now is to pry open Sun Dalong's lips. Little does he know that amidst the biting cold, countless mouths are eagerly awaiting sustenance. The workers in the electronic park, while sniffling, are lined up in an orderly fashion. Why hasn't he, the vendor of pig trotters, arrived yet? The last time he set up late, he compensated everyone with a special sauce. I wonder what he will offer this time. Initially, I intended to leave. But upon hearing your words, I shall remain in line. Countless individuals, wrapped tightly in their garments, continue to wait optimistically for Xiaolan's arrival, oblivious to the fact that for some, a mere turn can signify a lifetime. In the police station, an epiphany struck Xiaolan, prompting him to access the Points Redemption store once more. He initially contemplated purchasing more of the Pain Repentance chili, hoping that an excess might yield transformative results. To his astonishment, upon entering the store, he discovered new items had been added. Goodness! Xiaolon exclaimed excitedly, startling his drowsy colleague nearby. What happened? Did the suspect confess? No. I was merely exclaiming. Xiaolon brushed off his colleague before focusing intently on browsing the point store. Airtight steamer, 3,000 points per set. Endless fuel gas canister, 3,000 points each. Question-answer garlic pastry, 1,000 points per serving. Xiaolon barely glanced at the other items. Upon seeing the question-answer garlic pastry, he could hardly contain his excitement. Just from the name, he knew it was precisely what he desired. Upon clicking for details, his expectations were confirmed. Question-answer garlic pastry. You ask, I answer, no falsehoods. In a world filled with lies, I am the only real man. Enhancement. Gain the bad breath aura, lasting 24 hours. Without hesitation, Xiaolon redeemed one serving. Although he boasted a considerable 5,500 points, the other items were rather pricey, preventing him from indulging excessively. After purchasing the question-answer garlic pastry, he was left with 4,500 points. He had initially intended to buy a set of both the airtight steamer and the endless fuel gas canister, but alas, he lacked sufficient points. He decided to wait until the case was resolved, when his points would suffice. Subsequently, he took out a third pig trotter and sprinkled the question-answer garlic pastry upon it. He returned to seek out Sun Dalong, only to discover he was absent from the interrogation room. Old Liu, growing impatient, remarked, he went to the restroom. I don't know why he made 5 trips. Truly, a lazy donkey takes more time to relieve itself, and I've not seen him consume anything. Xiaolon chuckled dryly upon hearing this, secretly pondering whether Sun Dalong's consumption of raw mushrooms had caused his digestive distress. He hoped it wasn't too severe, just enough to leave him incapacitated but not to the brink of death. Old Liu's nostrils twitched as he caught the scent of the pig trotter in Xiaolan's hand, his eyes widening in astonishment. Oh, how did you know I wasn't full from dinner? You intentionally prepared a special meal for me, didn't you? I adore you. Xiaolon swiftly intervened, preventing him from reaching out. Hold on, don't express your affection just yet. This is not for you, but for Sun Dalong. Old Liu's lips curled in disdain. It seems Sun Dalong is so delicate that he can't handle any meat. He eats as much as he defecates. It's a waste to give him pig's trotters. Xiaolon encouraged him. Did you not say that Sun Xiaohu won with 3 pig's trotters? Perhaps if Sun Dalong eats the third one, he might confess willingly. Old Liu gritted his teeth. He better do so. As soon as Sun Dalong's name was mentioned, he came rushing over. I smelled the pig's trotters. After 2 bites, my nasal congestion cleared up. Ha. This is also for me, right? I won't hold back. In no time, Sun Dalong devoured the pig's trotters. Old Liu, filled with jealousy and envy, had one eye gleaming red and the other green. Did you even wash your hands before eating? He had merely vented his frustration, but unexpectedly, Sun Dalong paused. He actually put down the pig's trotters and replied earnestly, "I didn't wash them. I was afraid someone would snatch the trotters, so I rushed out." The moment he spoke, everyone expressed their disdain. Chapter 45. Why does your mouth smell so foul? Did you eat feces? Xiaolon could hardly suppress his urge to retch, as he sensed the stench from his words. No, it wasn't just a feeling, it was a tangible odor. A strong garlicky smell emanated from Sun Dalong's mouth. The garlic paste itself had a negligible scent, almost imperceptible. Yet, once consumed, it released an overwhelmingly foul odor. Old Lu was astonished, covering his nose. Goodness, why does your mouth smell so bad? Did you eat feces? Sun Dalong's expression froze, and he earnestly replied, "Perhaps so. I scrubbed too hard while wiping earlier, and I suspect my hands may have come into contact with feces." Stop! Stop! The crowd hastily shouted for him to cease. What is wrong with you? Why provide such detailed descriptions? Are you deliberately trying to disgust us? Sun Dalong, with a serious demeanor, responded, "Not at all. I merely answer every question you asked." And I responded. It was not my intention to offend anyone. Old Lu was momentarily taken aback, then suddenly his face lit up with joy. Do you truly answer every question? Indeed, if you don't believe me, test it. Can you share the names of your smuggling accomplices? Of course. Those who conspired with me in smuggling are one shop. Old Lu's eyes nearly popped out in shock. After 9 hours of interrogation, he had not uttered a word, and now he revealed everything so easily. Wait a moment, let me record this. Old Lu grinned widely, laughing maniacally as he called others to take notes. The subsequent interrogation proceeded beyond expectations. Sun Dalong answered every inquiry, and each statement matched the evidence collected by the Smuggling Enforcement Agency. Upon verification, everything aligned perfectly. Old Lu, having stayed awake for 2 days and nights, was exhilarated as if he had been injected with adrenaline. He submitted the meticulously organized intelligence, and after that, Xiaolon was oblivious to what transpired. As he had finished his shift, following a restful sleep, Xiaolon learned that the Bureau had initiated a major operation. The Joint Anti-Smuggling Bureau, in collaboration with police from multiple provinces and cities, launched a sweeping action that spanned 5 provinces in pursuit of suspects. Ultimately, they managed to apprehend all of Sun Dalong's accomplices, resulting in the arrest of 58 individuals involved in various cases. What an exhilarating capture it was. It is said that after returning, Old Lu was laughing heartily in his dreams. Hearing this, Xiaolon felt an inexplicable surge of excitement. Although he could not participate directly, he felt a sense of longing and regret. However, the rewards subsequently bestowed upon him by the system filled his heart to the brim with joy. As he listened to the continuous chimes of notifications, his heart raced with fervor. 58 individuals, all smugglers, not merely petty offenders who could be released after a few days. Just imagine how many points that would accumulate. Yet, when the final tally was presented, the system played a trick on Xiaolon. Considering the current scope of your influence is limited to Fengling City, only the capture of 10 smugglers from Fengling City will be accounted for. Please strive to expand your influence to encompass the entire nation. Fine. Among these 10 criminals, only 3 were principal offenders, while 6 were accomplices. Much ado about nothing. After lying on the bed in a huff for a while, Xiaolon gradually came to terms with it. It was not as if he had never been wealthy before. In his previous life, he achieved remarkable success at a young age, elevating his entire family. From the moment he could remember, he had never lacked for money. After gaining worldwide fame, he found himself inundated with wealth to the point of annoyance, scarcely having the time to spend it. It was only in this life, upon his arrival, that he discovered himself residing in a cramped urban village, facing a palm-sized cockroach upon waking, which truly rattled him. Since then, he had developed a newfound awareness of money. Nevertheless, the funds provided by the system were now sufficient to afford him a comfortable living. He could pursue his passions while simultaneously aiding the police in solving cases. This was indeed a positive development, so he decided not to dwell on it too much. Once he reconciled his thoughts, Xiaolon felt a sense of tranquility. He wondered if there would still be tasks involving street vending in the future. Even if there weren't, he had acquired a pot of seasoned broth, enabling him to prepare whatever he desired at any time. During the weekend, Xiaolon purchased 80 pounds of chicken feet and marinated them in 2 barrels. Riding his tricycle, he returned to the building where he used to live, bringing along the elderly man and the chicken feet. The old man assumed Xiaolon was returning to sell food for extra income, but was taken aback upon realizing he was actually back. Panic set in as he quickly spat out the chicken bone in his mouth and asked, "You're not planning to move back in, are you? Was my place so inadequate? I thought you were quite satisfied. Could it be that I've eaten too much? I only had 10 chicken feet. How is that excessive? All right, fine, it was 20. I admit my mistake. I won't steal any more food. Please don't move out." Xiaolon was left speechless. Before he could even respond, the old man had already confessed. No wonder he always felt that the quantity of food was off. He had assumed there were mice in the kitchen. Little did he know that the biggest rodent was this old man. "I am not moving back. I am officially relocating to your place. I still have some luggage here that I must take with me, and I need to discuss the lease termination with the landlord." Upon hearing this, the old man couldn't help but chuckle, though he quickly sobered as he realized he had inadvertently revealed too much. Xiaolon glared at him, saying, Old Deng, remember your words. If you dare to cheat again, well, you know what that means. Help me carry my luggage today, and I shall overlook your past transgressions. The old man, smiling apologetically, agreed. When Xiao Lan reappeared at the old building, his neighbors scarcely recognized him. After rubbing their eyes several times, they exclaimed, "It's really you. You've finally returned. Now we've caught you." Grabbing Xiao Lan by the arm, one neighbor sent a message to the owner group, summoning everyone to confront him. Xiao Lan chuckled heartily, showing no intention of fleeing. "I feel guilty for keeping you all awake these past 2 days. So I prepared to move out." "What? You're moving away?" The female neighbor gasped, realizing the grim news. Xiao Lan's delectable braised pig trotters had kept everyone awake. The thought of him not cooking those trotters anymore left them uneasy, as they felt it would be a significant regret in life. 2 more neighbors approached, lamenting. "Why are you leaving? We haven't even tasted your cooking yet. Indeed, your culinary skills are exceptional. It would be wonderful if you opened a restaurant in the neighborhood. We would surely visit daily." Xiao Lan waved his hands with a smile. "Opening a restaurant is out of the question. I have a primary job, and cooking is merely a hobby." As he spoke, he patted the 2 large thermal containers he had brought. "As we are neighbors, I feel a bit reluctant to leave. So I made some food for everyone to taste. Since pig trotters are quite expensive, I couldn't afford to treat the entire building. So I prepared some chicken feet instead. Please let everyone in the owner group know. Those who wish to try can come to the 3rd floor to collect some. It's free, but supplies are limited. First come, first served." Chapter 46. Suggestion to include pig trotters in essential trial supplies. As Xiao Lan opened the lid of the thermal container, a fragrant aroma reminiscent of braised pig trotters wafted through the air. The oiliness of the chicken feet was not as rich as that of the trotters. Hence the texture might fall short. However, the chicken feet he procured were quite plump. With a rounded shape, they resembled little steamed buns. One bite could fill the mouth completely, tender and succulent, easily pulling away from the bone. Eating them provided a profound sense of satisfaction, abundant in collagen. He had thoughtfully trimmed the nails to ensure no one would hurt their mouths while enjoying them. Whether young or old, everyone could partake with confidence. The entire building transformed into a fragrant ocean. The poorly ventilated corridor was warmed by the steam, creating a cozy atmosphere. People meandered through it, as if swimming in a river of milk. Taking a deep breath felt akin to being in a celestial realm, surrounded by swirling clouds. What a luxurious indulgence this was. How could they bear to see Xiao Lan leave? As the saying goes, one who accepts a favor is bound by it. After tasting the chicken feet Xiao Lan had brought, they felt reluctant to confront him. Instead, they eagerly offered to help him carry his luggage up and down the stairs. The elderly gentleman that Xiao Lan had specially brought along proved to be utterly useless, serving only to diminish the number of chicken feet. Ultimately, under the lingering gazes of their neighbors, the 2 departed with their luggage. "Oh, how he has left. Where else can I savor such delectable chicken feet? It's infuriating. Before tasting them, I merely craved them, but now that I have indulged, the desire is unbearable. I yearn to discover his new abode. I wish to confront him." Coincidentally, I feel the same way. Meanwhile, Xiao Lan, riding at the front, inexplicably felt a chill run down his spine. Turning around, he beheld a horde of zombies pursuing their vehicle, wailing as they chased. "Don't go. Don't leave." Xiao Lan hastily adjusted the tricycle to its highest speed, racing away in fear of prolonged nightmares. At the police station, Director scrutinized the report handed to him, his brow furrowing deeper with each passing moment as he muttered to himself. Old Lu had executed his task remarkably well. But was this report penned in a state of somnambulism? After consuming 3 pig trotters, the suspect had divulged all his accomplices. At this point, Director felt his temples throbbing, sensing that something even more absurd awaited him. Sure enough, the next line read, "It is suggested that pig trotters be included as essential interrogation supplies." Enraged, Director hurled the report. What on earth is this nonsense? Fuming, he picked up the internal phone and dialed. "Have Old Lu come to my office at once." Outside, upon hearing the summons from the director, Old Lu was so elated he could hardly contain his excitement. The team leader observed and teased. "Oh, someone's off to receive accolades. How proud." Old Lu was so delighted he was bubbling with joy, oblivious to the sarcasm, believing it was the first time the team leader had spoken so kindly. "Indeed. I'm off to receive commendation. The director personally called for me. He must remain low-key." The team leader simply smiled. Having read Old Lu's report and predicting that the director's reaction would mirror his own, in the office, Director's finger tapped furiously against the report, as if intent on obliterating it. "Do you wish to peruse the contents of your report? Did you compose it with your appendix?" "No, of course not." "Then why does it appear so nonsensical?" Old Lu was taken aback, utterly unaware of his missteps, as he had faithfully recorded the events. Observing his bewilderment, Director, recognizing him as a hero, softened his tone. "The main issue is that your writing is rather far-fetched. Even if you employed some special method to compel the suspect to confess, there is no need to fabricate such outrageous details. What kind of pig trotters possess such immense power that a suspect would surrender after consuming them?" Just then, Director caught sight of Old Lu's drool dripping down, rendering him speechless. Ever since tasting Xiao Lan's pig trotters, Old Lu could not control his salivation at the mere mention of them. After reiterating his point, who could possibly resist? Director, the pig trotters made by Xiao Lan are truly exquisite. If I were the suspect, give me 3 pig trotters, and I deconfess too. Director and silently handed old Lu 3 pieces of tissue. The power is indeed formidable, isn't it? As Lao Lu recounted the details of the interrogation, Director and silence grew increasingly profound. Is it truly that delectable? Perhaps I should ask Father and I to pack a few for him tomorrow to sample. However, upon reflection, it seems impractical. If I asked him to pack, he'd likely only bring back pig bones. Never mind. According to your account, Xiao Lan made significant contributions during this mission as well. Lao Lu. Indeed, he was originally tasked with mere surveillance. Yet unexpectedly, his culinary skills managed to attract the suspects. Engaging with the suspects ahead of time and understanding their personalities and habits greatly facilitates our subsequent efforts to breach their psychological defenses. Director N's fingers tapped rhythmically on the table, a habitual gesture when he was deep in thought. A decisive knock signaled that he had reached a conclusion. Very well. Since Xiao Lan has excelled in this regard, we might as well continue this approach. Let him serve as a special undercover agent, specifically focused on surveillance. As for the other 3, their undercover efforts have been virtually ineffective. They shall be assigned to support Xiao Lan, taking on any miscellaneous tasks that arise. During lunch, Lao Lu conveyed this news to Xiao Lan and the other 3 aspiring agents. Upon hearing this, they all erupted in cheers. Hooray, at last. I once have to set up a stall myself. Heaven knows how challenging it is to fry stinky tofu. Exactly. Is it even humanly possible to make jimbingguizi? I'd rather be with Brother Lan and enjoy some pig trotters. Brother Lan, from now on, I am your loyal follower. You must treat me well. Xiao Lan was equally elated. If his future work still involved setting up stalls, he could consider purchasing the newly released utensils from the point shop. Suddenly, Lu Dong suggested, given such a momentous occasion, why don't we have a barbecue tonight? Xiao Lan's newly rented apartment even has a balcony. Upon hearing this, everyone collectively opposed. Come on, what kind of barbecue can you even make? You must have some awareness of your own skills. Lu Dong is the one who sells barbecue at the South Gate. Customers often refuse his grilled offerings, so he ends up feeding them to stray dogs. Consequently, the dogs chased him in anger, leading to his loss of his original name and the acquisition of the nickname Lu Dongbin. Perhaps we should stick to hot pot instead. The cold weather makes it quite suitable. The one speaking was the stinky tofu vendor, Feng Chou, known as Hulai. Fortunately, Hulai had a semblance of sense, and didn't he propose anything overly complicated. Lia Si exclaimed, hot pot. I think that's a splendid idea. It'll be a great way to warm up Xiao Lan's new home. Let us discuss what ingredients to buy for tonight. I want pig trotters. Are you out of your mind? Who even cooks pig trotters in a hot pot? The group debated animatedly, completely disregarding Xiao Lan's opinion. It seems that this hot pot dinner is inevitable. Chapter 47. Bringing a few colleagues home for hot pot with a sigh, Xiao Lan could only call his father. Hello. I'm bringing a few colleagues home for hot pot tonight. Do you think that's all right? His father was so excited he could nearly leap up. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? I want a spicy mala pot, the extra spicy kind. Once the call ended, the old man surveyed his surroundings and realized he was not in the countryside, but rather in his son's new home. Alarmed that his wayward son harbored a penchant for cleanliness and despised visitors, he pondered for a moment before breaking into a grin. If I don't tell him, he won't know, will he? Hot pot, he. After work that day, the 3 of them followed Xiao Lan home. Lia Si and the others intended to buy groceries, allowing Xiao Lan to return early to prepare. Xiao Lan promptly interjected, recognizing their lack of culinary acumen. The lettuce they would choose could rival pickled cabbage in age. Did they truly plan to purchase it? The moment he observed them reaching for the packaged hot pot base and frozen beef slices, he realized he could not rely on them. With a talented chef like himself present, how could they settle for instant hot pot? The base must be homemade, and the beef should be fresh. Otherwise, what distinguished it from dining out on pre-prepared dishes? At the market, Xiao Lan led the way, while the 3 hapless companions followed behind, burdened with bags. In no time, they returned, laden with various packages. From the moment they entered the elevator, they expressed their admiration. This house is splendid. A true homeowner takes care of their place. It's nothing like those mixed-use buildings that appear upscale but are decrepit inside. With such a prime location, the property must be costly. What luck for Xiao Lan to encounter a homeowner traveling abroad. It's as if the owner toils away while he enjoys the fruits of their labor. Upon returning home, Xiao Lan instructed them to wait in the living room while he donned an apron. A chef, much like a general, prefers solitude in their domain. The groceries were funded by the trio. Thus, Xiao Lan would undertake the labor for this meal. First, he commenced crafting the hot pot base, selecting premium dried chilies. Vibrant as a winter fire and piquant as a slap from a flirtatious maiden, he combined them with Sichuan peppercorns in a wok, gently toasting them until they released a faint aroma. Next, he crushed the toasted chilies and peppercorns in a stone mortar, unleashing their hidden fragrance and flavor. The kitchen soon filled with an enticing, spicy aroma that wafted through the air. Achoo! One of the guests in the living room could not suppress a sneeze and hurried to open a window for ventilation. He then combined the crushed chilies and peppercorns with beef tallow in a pot, adding star anise, cinnamon, and bay leaves, and simmered it over low heat. As the temperature rose, the pale yellow tallow melted, and the boiling oil expelled moisture from the ingredients, intensifying the fragrance. The various scents intertwined, creating a tapestry of aroma, as if woven by the hand of the divine. The intricate and captivating fragrance dazzled the senses. Xiaolan then added some dabanjiang, spicy bean paste, and rock sugar, continuing to simmer until the hot pot base transformed into a vivid red hue. Staring intently at the pot could easily lead one into a trance. The red oil, saturated with spices, resembled restless desires and bubbling magma, an essence capable of engulfing one entirely. Xiaolan, the creator in the kitchen and the deity of the culinary world, moves with an effortless grace. In the moments of crafting the hot pot base, he diligently washes and slices vegetables without pause. Each movement is deliberate, each meal purposeful. He resembles a master pianist in an art sanctuary, lost in performance, simultaneously a performer for others and an intimate of his own art. All right, let us tidy up. It's time to eat. Already, exclaimed the several people in the living room, though it wasn't particularly fast, as they had already lost 5 rounds in their game. The enticing aroma proved too distracting for them to concentrate. After a while of gaming, they found themselves rising to open doors, windows, fans, air conditioning, and the fresh air system, anything that could be opened. This predicament troubled the neighbors. The scent of an ordinary hot pot is already intoxicating, let alone that of Xiaolan's freshly prepared dish. As they chewed on their vegetables, suddenly the taste faded. In the face of such an intense, fragrant aroma, all home-cooked dishes seemed bland and tasteless. A frustrated neighbor grunted like a pig, slamming his bowl upside down on the table. Who on earth is cooking so deliciously? It's been a week. Do they have no sense of community? His wife across the way replied, perhaps it's the new hot pot restaurant nearby? I heard it's a bit pricey. We should try it when we get paid mid-month. Oh, it's a hot pot restaurant then. That explains the exquisite skill. The man calmed down, scraping the remnants of food back into his bowl to continue eating. Hygiene aside, frugality is indeed a commendable habit. The pot of red broth bubbled vigorously, sending forth large, frothy bubbles. The rising steam, akin to a graceful, swaying waist, seemed to beckon the ingredients to join. Tender slices of meat, crisp vegetables, and silky tofu, all ingredients transformed into vibrant entities under the fiery embrace of the spices. The trio of clever minds and a gluttonous elder inhaled deeply, their souls momentarily escaping their bodies. A moment of distraction almost led them to reach into the pot. Sit tight, Xiaolan commanded, and they snapped back to reality, firmly planting themselves on their seats, though their eyes remained glued to the hot pot. The hand-sliced beef, as thin as a cicada's wing, displayed its intricate marbling when held to the light. Such exquisite knife skills. Each slice of beef exudes the chef's respect for the ingredients and his pursuit of culinary artistry. What splendid beef! The fresh, tender meat showcased a natural, healthy red hue with clear marbling, and when sniffed closely, one could detect a hint of grass. As the elder marveled, he turned to see the others nearly finishing the beef. How can you eat so quickly? Li Si and the others, with a single chopstick movement, scooped up a dozen slices, dipped them into the pot, and in mere seconds, they were cooked. A quick blow, and they stuffed the morsels into their mouths. Juices bursting forth, incredibly tender. The elder's eyes widened in frustration. How outrageous. Not even leaving any for the elderly. Li Si, with cheeks full, retorted, hurry and eat. Just being able to see the plate of beef is already generous of me. Lu Dongbin, eyes bulging as he ate, urged, quick, before I drink the broth. You want to have anything left to fish out? Hu Lai joined the fray, teasing, if you take any longer, I might just gnaw on your chopsticks. The old man, unwilling to be outdone, rolled up his sleeves and entered the battle. You little rascal, I'll make sure you don't get a single Sichuan peppercorn. Meanwhile, in the police station, Director In, working late, rummaged through the filing cabinet and suddenly realized something was amiss. Oh no, it seems I left that file at home. He contemplated calling his son to see what he was up to. If he was free, he could send it over. Otherwise, he'd have to return to retrieve it himself. Chapter 48. Am I licking the pot clean so you won't have to wash it? Within less than half an hour, the table, laden with ingredients, was completely cleared. The 3 young men, as they had boasted, managed to drink half of the hot pot broth. Eventually, they discovered there was still some lettuce uncooked. So they simply grabbed it and dipped it into the remaining broth to eat. As everyone was munching away, a phone call interrupted the revelry. The old man glanced at the caller ID and felt a jolt of anxiety. Could it be that his son had caught wind of their hot pot dinner at home? He stepped aside, feeling guilty as he answered, hello? Dad, are you home? Came the voice on the other end. At that moment, Li Si, clutching his belly, remarked, this hot pot is truly delectable. Why do I feel hungry again right after finishing? Hot pot. Director In on the other end seized upon the keyword. What hot pot? Who's beside you? The old man hurriedly clarified. I'm out with Xiaolan having hot pot, not at home right now. Did you call for something? Nothing now. Just make sure not to eat too spicy or overindulge. I don't want you ending up in the hospital. Upon hearing that both his son and Xiaolan were not at home, Director In decided not to trouble them further and figured it was a good opportunity to go home and grab what he needed. By the way, once you're done with the hot pot and return home, change your clothes immediately. Don't lounge on the sofa smelling like food. Okay, After hanging up, the old man wiped the sweat from his forehead. His son couldn't even tolerate the smell of hot pot on his clothes. If he found out they were having hot pot at home, it would be a disaster. Should he tidy up? Nah, he was too full. He would just lie on the sofa for a while. After all, his son was none the wiser. However, unbeknownst to him, his son was already seated in the car, en route home. It was not rush hour, so the roads were clear. In less than 20 minutes, Director and arrived downstairs. He parked, removed the key, and entered the elevator. Taking a sniff, he noticed a faint, alluring aroma in the air. It was reminiscent of hot pot, yet somehow more fragrant than he remembered. The elevator made a stop, allowing a delivery person to enter, carrying several bags of takeout. As the doors opened, the enticing scent intensified. How delightful, Director murmured, though his stomach audibly grumbled in protest. Feeling a bit embarrassed, he was met with an understanding smile from the delivery person. Someone must be frying peppers. It's both pungent and aromatic. Seizing the opportunity to converse, Director casually inquired, "Is that fragrance coming from the floor where you just delivered?" Delivery person, "I cannot discern. It seems that every floor is infused with delightful aromas, rendering it impossible to identify which household is preparing a meal." As the elevator came to a halt, the delivery person stepped out first. Director continued his ascent, finally reaching his intended floor. This level was also permeated with a rich fragrance, causing his nose to run uncontrollably. The freshness of the chili peppers possessed an invigorating potency. The prepackaged hot pot base had already lost its essence as the capsaicin had gradually dissipated, leaving it devoid of its soul when consumed. The pungency of the chili in the corridor was so intense that it rendered Director unable to open his eyes. The moment he opened the door, it was as if he had unleashed a sealed storm of spicy aromas, nearly knocking him off his feet. Wait, something feels amiss. Why does it seem that the source of the chili fragrance is emanating from his own home? Director hurriedly entered, traversing the living room and heading directly to the kitchen. There, a cacophony of voices filled the air, laughter mingling with playful banter. And he could faintly hear, "Why are you glaring at me, old man? We simply want to take some chili base with us. Isn't that being a bit stingy? You're calling it a takeout? You didn't even leave me a single Sichuan peppercorn. I was hoping to use the leftover base to cook some noodles. Seriously? You already have Shaolon, and you're still trying to snatch hot pot base from us? That's excessive. Shaolon doesn't make hot pot base every day. Please save me a portion." The four of them were bickering so intensely it seemed they might lose their sanity. Suddenly, from the corner of his eye, Director caught sight of a darkened face and was startled. "Who goes there?" he exclaimed. "Strange, didn't I close the door? I distinctly remember shutting it after airing out the room." Director's forlorn gaze resembled searchlights, piercing through the old man's beleaguered spirit. A chorus of questions erupted from the four subordinates present, none of whom recognized their own bureau chief. The beam of Director's scrutiny expanded from one individual to encompass a group. Confusion and unfamiliarity etched across their faces. This was not entirely the fault of Shaolon and her companions. Not only were they newcomers, but the chief had been preoccupied with work, leaving little opportunity for them to meet closely. Moreover, the transformation of Director since his appointment had been remarkable. The photograph posted on the police station's bulletin board depicted him as a slightly plump young man. After 6 months in office, his gastric condition had worsened, resulting in a loss of 30 pounds. To say he was unrecognizable would not be an exaggeration. As a result, the station's newcomers had always assumed their chief resembled the photograph. Encountering the real person standing before them, they could not reconcile the two. The old man initially felt a pang of anxiety, fearing his identity might be unveiled. Seeing that everyone failed to recognize Director, he quickly fabricated a lie. This gentleman is the owner of the house. It is our first meeting. Haha, just came to greet him." Director regarded his father with a mixture of amusement and exasperation. "Really? Have you become so addicted to lying? You still wish to conceal your identity at this juncture? Is it even possible? These four comrades from the same precinct should be able to recognize you upon closer inspection." Shaolon widened her eyes as she scrutinized Director's face and promptly stepped forward to shake his hand. "So you are the homeowner. It's a pleasure to meet you for the first time. I am Shaolon, the tenant that old Deng, mentioned to you previously. These individuals are my colleagues, visiting for dinner with me for the first time tonight, as typically it is just my father and me residing here." Director's lips twitched slightly, incredulous at how well the ruse was maintained. He didn't even recognize him. "By the way, weren't you supposed to be abroad? Have you altered your plans?" Upon hearing Shaolan's inquiry, the old man quickly interjected, "No, there has been no change. He simply returned to retrieve a few items and will leave right after. Isn't that right?" "Indeed it is." The old man shot a desperate glance at his son, urging him to depart hastily. Director's temples throbbed, and through gritted teeth, he replied, "It is I, who merely came to fetch something and will promptly leave." He then hurriedly turned and retreated into the room to gather his documents, fearing he might lose his composure. The autumn leaves cascaded gently upon my face, and my heart ached at my father's betrayal. How could such a rebellious father exist? It's a sin. To secretly bring people home for hot pot and not allow him a moment longer, hastily driving him away. After retrieving the documents, the rebellious father seemed to experience a sudden pang of conscience, smiling awkwardly. Have you had dinner? Why not eat a little before you go? Director and glanced at the table, which was utterly bare, the hot pot containing only remnants of broth. What could he eat? Lick the pot clean, so you wouldn't have to wash it? How infuriating, yet he had to maintain a smile. Chapter 49, A New Mission, Directly Assaulting the Thieves' Den. The Bun Shop Edition. At that moment, Xiao Lan emerged from the kitchen, offering Director a bulging bag. This contains my homemade braised pig's trotters and chicken feet. Already sealed for your convenience. You can take it on the plane. If you grow hungry on the road, you can eat directly. Director instinctively accepted the bag. A warm, enticing aroma wafted forth, instantly calming his thumping temples and smoothing his furrowed brow. Even through the sealed bag, the fragrance permeated, making the pig's trotters seem tantalizingly irresistible. Thank you, he said, his expression brightening slightly, the darkness within him receding by half as he turned to exit. The corridor still held a lingering scent of hot pot spices, yet it could not mask the faint but alluring aroma of the pig's trotters. Upon entering the elevator, he couldn't resist opening the plastic bag, leaning in to inhale deeply. That single breath sent a rush of euphoria coursing through him, completely dispelling any remnants of negativity. Endorphins surged, invigorating him more effectively than coffee. No, it was even more potent than morphine. Was that permissible to say? This was indeed the pig's trotters that would compel a suspect to confess. Director suddenly realized that old Lou's report was not merely flamboyant, but rather a complete representation of reality. Before he knew it, he had devoured 2 bags of pig's trotters and chicken feet in the underground parking lot. The leftover bones, he savored, reluctant to discard them. Truly delightful. Xiao Lan is quite amiable, and her culinary skills are exceptional. It is no wonder my father insists on living with her. The daily fare is so exquisite. If only I could partake. Suddenly, Director was struck by the thought of his forced departure abroad, unable to return, and he found his expression falter. Overwhelmed by sorrow. What a tragedy. With a forceful punch, he accidentally pressed the horn, the sound echoing loudly, startling him into retracting his hand. A new day? A new task awaits. Old Lou summoned Xiao Lan and a few others to assign a new task. The smuggling case has concluded, and you need not return to the electronic park. It is advisable to maintain a safe distance to avoid revealing your identity. This time, your assignment is located in Fenghan District, which lies in the eastern suburbs of our Fengling City. Previously known as Fenghan County, it had gained notoriety as a poverty-stricken region. Due to mismanagement, the area was rife with chaos, teeming with drug addicts, traffickers, thugs, and petty thieves. Subsequently, as Fengling City expanded its development and transitioned from county to district, Fenghan County was reformed into Fenghan District. The government has expressed a strong desire to bolster the economy of this new area, resulting in a complete overhaul of the leadership in Fenghan County, with hopes that fresh faces would bring new vitality. However, while the leadership changed, some detrimental habits among the residents persisted, deeply entrenched and resistant to change. Despite several years of vigorous rectification efforts, although the number of drug addicts and traffickers has diminished, petty theft remains rampant. The mention of Fenghan District is enough to deter even taxi drivers, who refer to it as a den of thieves. The police are planning a large-scale operation to combat theft and require your team to conduct preliminary reconnaissance, tentatively scheduled for 2 weeks. Xiao Lan, you possess considerable autonomy in executing this task, while the other 3 will assist you in your endeavors. Upon receiving the new assignment, Xiao Lan began preparing for the stall operations. To avoid recognition from individuals involved in the previous task, which could hinder the execution of their duties, Xiao Lan decided to refrain from selling pig trotters this time and opted for a different product. Conveniently, the points exchange market offered a completely sealed steamer and a never-ending gas cylinder, so he purchased 2 sets of equipment for 6,000 points, leaving him with 3,000 points. He also decided to acquire the bulletproof macadamia nuts. Although he was uncertain of when they might be useful, his primary aim was to unlock the complete inventory. After confirming his decision to sell breakfast items, Xiao Lan promptly arranged for the procurement of ingredients. The breakfast business is undoubtedly labor-intensive. One must rise earlier than the rooster to avoid missing the morning rush of customers. Additionally, one must work late into the night to prepare, or else risk being unprepared the following day. Fortunately, old Lu assigned Lia Si, Hu Lai, and LV Dong to assist, for otherwise, Xiao Lan would be overwhelmed. The breakfast menu is diverse, featuring buns, tea eggs, marble cake, and stir-fried noodles. For the time being, Xiao Lan plans to focus solely on selling buns, offering 4 varieties: meat buns, vegetable buns, pickled cabbage buns, and brown sugar buns. This selection encompasses both savory and sweet options. Preparing buns requires kneading the dough and making the filling the night before. To enhance the texture of the buns, freshness is paramount. Thus, it is ideal to assemble them in the morning. Once shaped, a brief second fermentation allows them to be placed in the steamer. Consequently, those who hand-make buns often rise at 3 or 4 in the morning to meet the peak breakfast hours of 6 or 7. For those seeking to cut corners, buns can be prepared the night before and stored in the refrigerator. However, refrigerated buns differ subtly from fresh ones. During refrigeration, they lose moisture, resulting in a drier surface. The following day, during the steaming process, it is essential to extend the cooking time beyond the usual duration to ensure that the buns are thoroughly cooked. Many individuals overlook these details when making buns. However, for a professional chef, these intricacies are replete with knowledge. Even for someone as efficient as Xiaolon, the addition of new varieties is approached with caution, as the handmade nature of the buns can be overwhelming. Nowadays, numerous breakfast stalls boast an extensive array of offerings. A modest shop can surprisingly sell a dozen different types of refined dough products. One might wonder if the proprietors possess 8 hands, enabling them to produce such a multitude in a single night, or if they have resorted to purchasing pre-made frozen products in bulk. Life is tough, and those who understand. The texture of these frozen products is not worth discussing. They can all be categorized as sustenance for mere survival. However, the true skill level of many stall owners is often even inferior to such basic sustenance. Xiaolon had previously coordinated with the meat vendors and vegetable sellers at the market. Once the merchants had prepared the items he required, he sent Li Si and the others to collect them. These were carefully selected ingredients intended for long-term collaboration. Upon their return, Li Si inquired, "Why did you specifically purchase 2 types of pork? Isn't ground meat all the same?" The bags contained specially portioned pork shoulder and pork belly. Xiaolon readily shared his insights, explaining, "There is a method to this. The 2 types of meat possess distinct textures. The pork shoulder is tender with a moderate fat-to-lean ratio, making the bun filling smooth and not greasy. The pork belly, on the other hand, has alternating layers of fat and lean meat, rich in flavor, which enhances the juiciness of the filling. You may not grasp this now, but you will discern the difference once you sample it." Xiaolon decided to prepare 2 different types of meat buns, steaming them together to offer customers the joy of a mystery box. Hearing Xiaolan's depth of understanding and recalling his exceptional skill in preparing pig trotters, everyone couldn't help but beam with anticipation. We can't wait to eat. Chapter 50. I am the innate culinary deity, the perfected realm. Little did they know. Xiaolon tossed each of them an apron and 2 knives. Still waiting to eat? Dream on. Come here and help chop the filling. The old man pointed at himself. Incredulous. Do I, at my advanced age, also have to work? Xiaolon rolled his eyes. You, at your advanced age, can outmaneuver 3 people when it comes to food. If you don't work, who will? Reluctantly, the old man complied. Xiaolon opted for the traditional method of hand-chopping the filling for the buns rather than using a meat grinder. On one hand, he had 3 strapping young men and an elderly man full of vigor at his disposal, which was a resource not to be wasted. If they consumed so much daily without any exercise, they would surely gain weight. On the other hand, this method harbors the secret to delicious meat buns. Hand-chopped meat has an uneven grain size, resulting in a more complex texture. When savored, one can distinctly perceive the fibrous quality of the meat. Furthermore, hand-chopping does not excessively damage the cellular structure of the meat, allowing it to retain more juices, thereby enhancing its flavor. In contrast, machines operate at high speeds, turning the meat into a mushy paste while losing a significant amount of juice, resulting in a dry filling. Indeed, there are now machines capable of adjusting the granularity of minced meat while preserving the integrity of the meat pieces. However, machines are invariably too rigid. When tasked with maintaining meat chunks, they produce nothing but uniform morsels. It is undeniable that machines enhance efficiency and save considerable time. Yet, certain delectable flavors often require the passage of time to fully develop, much like fruits ripened under natural sunlight, which are invariably more succulent and sweet than those hastily ripened through artificial means. The speed of machine mincing is astonishingly rapid, leaving little time for the seasonings to thoroughly penetrate the meat before it is pulverized. In contrast, the manual chopping process, although slower, allows for greater exposure of the meat to air, facilitating a better amalgamation with the spices, resulting in a more robust flavor. Xiaolon, clad in an apron, deftly wields the knife, sending pink flecks of meat flying across the cutting board. With scallions and ginger to eliminate any fishy odor, and seasonings added in small, incremental amounts, the meat mixture becomes well infused even during the chopping stage. After demonstrating the technique, Xiaolon hands the knife to others, instructing them to follow his method, reminding them to add seasonings gradually at a specific point rather than dumping them all in at once. If you treat the food carelessly, the food will repay you in kind. To achieve deliciousness, one must invest effort wholeheartedly. Understood, comes the chorus of responses. Xiaolan's solemn demeanor instills a sense of reverence among the group, deterring any inclination toward negligence. While others continue mincing, Xiaolon begins kneading dough at the side. He places the dough on the countertop, his hands moving with the grace of Tai Chi, exerting an even pressure. Knead, pinch, caress, slap, and strike. The dough gradually transforms under his touch, becoming smooth and elastic, emitting a rhythmic duong-duong sound. The others, captivated, unconsciously cease their chopping. Xiaolon, where on earth did you acquire such skills? Li Si inquires, his eyes wide with astonishment, suddenly perceiving Xiaolon as a stranger. Surely, during your time at the police academy, you must have sneaked into the vocational school next door to learn culinary arts while we were asleep? Xiaolon nonchalantly retorts, I am a natural-born culinary prodigy, a paragon of perfection, It is entirely reasonable that I could master it after a single viewing of a tutorial. Enough chatter. Hurry up and chop. After a day of industrious preparation, they are finally ready, awaiting the morning to set up their stall. The first batch of steamed buns is savored by the 5 of them at a leisurely pace, as they chew slowly, relishing the fruits of their labor. After all, they have personally participated in the creation process and cannot treat it lightly. They must savor every bite, appreciating the nuances to honor the effort they have invested. As they eat, the elderly man suddenly finds himself overwhelmed with emotion. My goodness, I've spent 70 years of my life without knowing how delicious buns could be. I must live to be 100 and eat these for another 30 years. The other 3 men, equally moved, wipe away tears. Is this truly the result of 5 hours of work? How could food made with such care be so exquisite? This cannot merely be sold at a roadside stall. It deserves a place in a museum. The following day, as dawn breaks with a chill in the air, Xiaolan dons a mask and prepares to set up his stall. He rides ahead, while Lia Si and several baskets of buns follow behind. Xiaolan is unperturbed by the thought of Lia Si pilfering a bun, as they remain uncooked and have yet to be steamed. As Xiaolan pedaled, she meticulously observed the placement of the stalls. Memories of old Lu's descriptions of the Feng'an district's environment surfaced in her mind. The Feng'an new area comprised both new and old neighborhoods. The new district boasted well-developed infrastructure, towering buildings, and wide roads, originally intended for a commercial street. However, due to the area's notorious reputation, merchants were disinclined to establish their businesses there, and few wished to purchase homes in Feng'an. Consequently, the new district remained largely deserted, resembling a ghost town by night. Almost all residents resided in the old district, where the roads were narrow and worn, and alleys twisted and turned, often lined with partially demolished derelict buildings. Police vehicles entering the old district found it challenging to turn around, yet those familiar with the terrain could easily escape, vanishing like loaches into the mud, complicating our apprehension efforts. Riding from the new district to the old, Xiaolan witnessed firsthand the veracity of old Lu's words. The journey revealed increasingly dilapidated houses and roads, yet the number of pedestrians grew. Drunken individuals wandered the streets at dawn, while late-night barbecue stalls prepared to close for the day. Suddenly, Xiaolan's headlights illuminated an obstruction ahead. A massive tree branch lay sprawled across the road. The already narrow pathway was completely blocked by the branch. With the sky a deep blue and morning mist swirling, Xiaolan struggled to discern the road conditions. Concerned that there might be an issue, she feared someone had deliberately placed the branch as a warning for oncoming vehicles. "Si, please check ahead for any road issues. If all is clear, move the branch aside to prevent it from obstructing traffic." Understood. Liasi emerged from the vehicle, his nose reddened. With long strides, he descended from the tricycle and advanced forward. Utilizing the illumination from Xiaolan's headlights, he discerned the situation beyond the branch. The road was intact, with no collapse or missing manhole covers, just a few large stones. Liasi promptly began clearing away the branch and stones. Who on earth is so inconsiderate as to play such pranks, placing stones in the middle of the road? While engrossed in his task, he was suddenly jostled by someone. Alert, he looked up to find an elderly woman with graying hair. She had lost her balance and collided with him. Instantly, he inquired with concern, "Are you all right, ma'am? Did you fall?" The elderly woman wobbled a bit, steadied herself with Liasi's support, and repeatedly waved her hand. I'm fine. At my age, my eyesight isn't what it used to be. I nearly fell." Liasi responded, "Indeed. Who knows why someone would leave such obstacles on the road, not fearing for others' safety?" Yes, the elderly woman mumbled before hurrying away, appearing to be in a rush. Chapter 51. What kind of meat bun costs 10 yuan? Did you stuff an entire pig inside? Once Liasi finished clearing the road, he dusted off his hands and returned to Xiaolan, immediately venting his frustrations. "I must say, it's truly inconsiderate. Who knows who carelessly left obstacles on the road, nearly causing someone to fall?" Curious, Xiaolan asked, "So there were no issues with the road? It wasn't he meant to warn other vehicles?" "Absolutely not. Just a sheer act of mischief." Yet, Xiaolan found the situation puzzling. He suddenly realized he was in the notorious den of thieves and, alarmed, urgently asked, "Si, check your pockets and see if anything is missing." Upon hearing this, Liasi quickly comprehended the situation and hastily reached for his jacket pocket. The zipper of his pocket, unbeknownst to him, had come undone, and suddenly he exclaimed, "Oh no, my belongings are gone." Xiaolan promptly inquired, "What did you lose? Cash or your phone?" Liasi shook his head, "Neither. It's a pack of tissues. I absolutely need to use the restroom by noon, and many public toilets don't provide paper, so I brought my own." Xiaolan remarked, "Why fret over losing a pack of tissues? If one didn't know better, they might think you lost your police badge." However, Liasi clenched his fist in frustration. How infuriating. That pack of tissues is quite expensive, costing 2 yuan. It's thick, moisture-resistant, and doesn't tear easily, perfect for cleaning up. Xiaolan, exasperated, rubbed his temples. All right, they didn't pay you to advertise. By the way, your phone wasn't stolen, was it?" "No, I left it in the car," Liasi replied. Xiaolan sighed in relief. "That's good. Second-hand phones aren't worth much, but the information on them is invaluable. If Leah C's phone were stolen and taken to a shop to be unlocked, the thief could easily access the information or chat logs and discover he is an undercover officer. That would be disastrous. On the very first day, he'd be stripped of his cover and forced to retreat in disgrace. It was evident that this was indeed a den of thieves the moment they arrived. They received an unwelcome lesson. Even the elderly and children could not afford to let their guard down. They would need to remain vigilant in the future. As Leah C returned to the car, Xiao Lan reflected anew on what old Lu had said earlier about the district. This Feng'an district was truly a festering sore that could not be healed. Those with any capability had long since moved away, leaving behind those with questionable backgrounds, who banded together. The police had conducted several anti-theft operations in the past, but whenever they deployed officers, the criminals would immediately alert one another and hide their evidence. It felt as if the entire district was a network of informants, watching them with amusement, like spectators at a circus. The frustration of knowing they were up to no good, yet being unable to gather evidence, was suffocating. After several fruitless attempts, the criminals grew increasingly arrogant. Rumor had it that a petty thief boasted they could identify a police dog at a glance, even if it entered Feng'an district. In summary, it was exceedingly difficult for the police to breach their defenses. Therefore, they needed you, Xiao Lan, to infiltrate the Feng'an district in an undercover capacity to assist the police in finding a breakthrough. The recollection abruptly ceased as Xiao Lan discovered a suitable spot for setting up a stall. It was a bustling intersection in the old district, situated on a major thoroughfare. Anyone heading out for work or school would inevitably pass through here. At a glance, he could see at least 4 bus stops. Xiao Lan instinctively felt this was the location with the highest foot traffic. Even if his judgment faltered, surely his peers would not also err in their assessments. Observe the present moment. Vendors selling steamed buns have already begun to set up their stalls. Just as Xiao Lan was parking, an elderly man selling fried rice noodles rode by on his bicycle. Indeed, one must be industrious in the breakfast trade. Those who indulge in sloth cannot hope to earn a living. Having found a suitable spot for her vehicle, Xiao Lan commenced her stall operations, igniting the steamer for the buns. The steaming process typically requires around 12 minutes. However, given the winter chill, this duration may be extended. Nonetheless, she would still manage to serve the morning rush. Before long, several other breakfast vendors arrived in succession. Some offered sandwiches, others rice rolls, handcrafted burgers, and fried dough sticks. Yet, the majority were stalls selling buns and similar flour-based delicacies. Selling such items does not necessitate specialized skills, as they are merely wholesale products that require thawing and steaming to prepare. Although the bun vendors appeared to be quite homogeneous, there existed no fierce competition among them, for the foot traffic here was substantial. Customers hurriedly made their purchases in the brief interludes while waiting for traffic lights, their time constrained. Occasionally, if one stall appeared too crowded, patrons would prefer the neighboring stall with fewer customers. If all stalls were bustling, customers might opt to seek their breakfast elsewhere. After all, frozen buns available at wholesale prices can be found throughout the city. Wherever one goes, one can purchase them. Thus, having a few more breakfast stalls to help distribute the clientele is beneficial, ensuring customer retention. Today, with the arrival of newcomer Xiao Lan, the other vendors paid little mind. The buns she produced lacked the assertive, aggressive aroma reminiscent of braised pig trotters. Instead, the succulent, juicy fillings were snugly encased within soft, elastic dough. Even after steaming, they would only emit a subtle fragrance of flour and wheat, a delicate scent that made no ostentatious display. Only those who had savored these buns would know that each contained an explosive burst of flavor. At the 15th minute of steaming, a cloud of white vapor billowed forth. Leah C seemed to transform into Pavlov's dog. The mere sight was sufficient to elicit a salivary response, even before he could catch a whiff of the aroma. An overwhelming desire to incapacitate Xiao Lan and claim all the buns for himself surged within him. Alas, before he could act on this greedy impulse, the first customer approached. The newcomer sported a head of unkempt, faded blonde hair, dressed in the archetypal attire of a non-mainstream youth from the urban-rural fringe. Though he appeared relatively young, his voice betrayed at least a decade of smoking experience, exuding a strong stench of alcohol from last night's revelry. Leah C, standing opposite him, was nearly overwhelmed by the odor, almost succumbing to a fit. For meat buns, he mumbled while yawning, his eyes barely opened throughout the exchange. Xiao Lan did not immediately lift the steamer lid to retrieve the meat buns. Instead, she informed him, 10 yuan each, totaling 40 yuan for 4. The young man with blonde hair abruptly halted his yawn mid-action. Squinting, he leaned closer to Xiao Lan and inquired, "What is this? You claim a meat bun costs how much?" Anticipating his reaction, Xiao Lan held his breath and calmly reiterated, "A meat bun is priced at 10 yuan. Additionally, we have vegetable buns, sauerkraut buns, and brown sugar buns, all at 6 yuan each." For the first time, the young man's eyes widened in disbelief. "Have you lost your mind? What meat bun could possibly sell for 10 yuan? Are you stuffing an entire pig inside?" In the bustling heart of Fengling City, a meat bun could hardly fetch such a price. Moreover, the old district maintained its own price standards. Despite having transitioned from a county to a district several years ago, the genuine alleviation of poverty in Feng'an district had only recently taken place. Consequently, the cost of living remained comparable to that of a county town. Typically, Buns were priced around 15 yuan, with meat buns available for merely 2 yuan. Even a beef bun priced at 3 yuan was considered exorbitant. Yet, Xiaolan's meat bun was astonishingly priced at 10 yuan, a staggering five-fold increase. In Fengling City, or even within the nation's top-tier cities such as Kyoto and Shanghai, one would seldom find a street vendor daring to price buns above 5 yuan. On what grounds do you charge such an exorbitant rate? Are you taking advantage of my inebriation, or is there something exceptional about your buns? The young man glared at Xiao Lan, brimming with indignation, akin to a powder keg ready to explode. Xiao Lan, unperturbed, replied, "These are handmade buns, not produced by machines. The labor costs are high, and hence a higher price is reasonable. So do you wish to buy?" That was the extent of his explanation. He did not fervently plead for the young man to sample his wares. After all, he was not a true businessman. His actions were merely aimed at presenting himself as a typical vendor, concealing his true identity. However, his casual tone, indifferent demeanor, and lack of enthusiasm conveyed a sense of disdain to the young man, as if he had presumed from the outset that the young man lacked the means to purchase and therefore deemed him unworthy of attention. By this time, daylight had fully broken, and a throng of early commuters had gathered at the intersection. Their conversation had drifted into the ears of bystanders waiting for the traffic light to change. With nothing to occupy their time, they found amusement in the unfolding drama. The young man, merely 18, was at that tender age when sensitivity and pride intertwine. He felt the gaze of onlookers upon him, questioning his financial status in front of so many. How dare they look down upon him? He was on the brink of executing a significant scheme. Before making his move, he sought to purchase a few buns to stave off hunger, ensuring he had the energy to escape later. A petty vendor could only earn a meager sum in a day. How dare they question his finances? "I can earn thousands from just one deal," he declared. "Of course, I'll buy 4. If they aren't delicious, I'll turn over your stall." As a ruffian, the young man's straightforward style was unmistakable. His words were not mere bluster. He was utterly serious. Turning over a stall was no trivial threat. He would be remiss not to resort to violence. Any vendor with a hint of insecurity would likely offer a few buns for free in hopes of being spared. Yet, he had encountered Xiao Lan, who stood firm and confident. Xiao Lan, with unwavering composure, swiftly retrieved 4 meat buns from the steamer. The speed was so remarkable that the appearance of the buns was barely glimpsed before the steamer was closed again. 4 buns, priced at 40 yuan. As a cloud of steam dissipated, the yellow-haired man finally discerned the buns Xiao Lan had presented to him. Upon this realization, he was filled with a mix of amusement and indignation. 10 yuan each, yet the buns were merely the size of an ordinary dumpling. If anything, no larger than 2 small soup dumplings. Meanwhile, other vendors sold barbecued pork buns for 3 yuan each, generously sized to fit in the palm. Surely, this vendor had never experienced the harshness of the world outside. He chuckled to himself, anticipating the moment he would teach the vendor a lesson with a few well-placed punches. With a cold smirk, the yellow-haired man tossed an entire bun into his mouth, chewing provocatively as if to announce, "Once I've devoured 2 of these, you're next." However, as he chewed, the challenging glint in his eyes began to flicker, giving way to a hint of confusion and astonishment. After a few more bites, his eyes widened in surprise. His cheeks bulged as he hastened his chewing, as if the video had been sped up threefold. Li Si, observing the swelling of his cheeks, could easily surmise the tumultuous dance of the yellow-haired man's tongue within his mouth. Delicious, wasn't it? Astonishing, indeed. Had this mountain pig ever tasted such exquisite fare? The dough, lovingly kneaded by Xiao Lan, and the filling, personally crafted by his companions, had undergone 5 hours of meticulous preparation. This was no trivial endeavor. Initially, Li Si and his friends believed that once the meat was chopped, the process was complete. Little did they realize that this was merely the beginning. Next came the vigorous mixing of the meat filling with the seasoning, ensuring a harmonious blend. The mixing required forceful strokes in one direction, a technique that would invigorate the filling. To illustrate the effort, Li Si single-handedly broke 3 pairs of chopsticks in the process. After thorough mixing, the meat filling seemed almost sentient, gripping the chopsticks tightly, as if it were alive. Even if one were to let go, the chopsticks would remain standing upright after an hour. Manipulating the chopsticks was no easy feat. The meat clung together as if a legion of soldiers was prepared for battle. Li Si wielded his chopsticks like a weapon, determined to create chaos among the divine forces of heaven. Had a machine been employed, it would have been smoking by now. Yet, the potential of humanity is boundless. Though the chopstick snapped, Li Si's resolve remained unbroken. The battle was exhilarating, and even now, his arms bore the lingering fatigue of the struggle. At this moment, the yellow-haired man was not merely consuming a bun. He was savoring the fruits of Li Si's labor, a testament to his triumph. One might argue that even at 50 yuan each, they would be worth every penny. As he approached the second bun, he began to emit muffled sounds, his body trembling involuntarily, producing noises unbecoming of the situation. He wished it were different. Yet it was the meat bun that had provoked him. All he did was toss the bun into his mouth, where his upper and lower teeth merely grazed. In an instant, a flavor bomb detonated within his mouth, juices exploding forth. The spoils of victory were undeniably delicious, but such delights are seldom obtained without effort. As the minced meat was being prepared, it appeared to yield under the gentle assault of chopsticks, conforming effortlessly into a small mound, ready to be enveloped within the dough, forming a plump, pleated bun. Yet, this was merely a tactical pause, a temporary cessation of hostilities. Once the meat filling was steamed to perfection, it would be imbued with a magical buff of elasticity and resilience, poised for revival. In the theater of taste, with the bun's exterior serving as a shield, the meat filling would regroup and charge forth, launching an assault. The young man could feel that as he chewed, the filling seemed to leap up, engaging in a lively skirmish within his mouth. This exhilarating sensation invigorated every cell in his oral cavity, awakening a sense of vitality as if a grand battle were imminent. Over 10,000 taste buds rallied, primarily stationed at the tip of his tongue and the sides of his palate. In a three-pronged attack formation, they besieged the meat filling. The meat fought back valiantly, maneuvering between his tongue and teeth, launching counterattacks. However, many of its champions fell, succumbing to the might of his teeth. These fallen warriors manifested as tender morsels of meat, bursting with flavor and juiciness, epitomizing the essence of surprise. What a delightful revelation it was. How could it be so delicious? Chapter 53. The bun's skin. A triple sensation. The young man was so overwhelmed by the exquisite taste that tears almost welled up in his eyes. The battle between his mouth and the bun concluded with the triumph of humanity. The news of victory traveled down his esophagus, with every inch of his intestines rejoicing in celebration. The jubilant tidings eventually reached the sovereign stomach, a veritable emotional organ whose activities are swayed by feelings. Upon hearing of the victory, the stomach was filled with joy, granting a universal pardon with a mere wave of its hand. The accumulated tension, anxiety, and depression that had lingered for years were instantly swept away, revitalizing him from within. The young man distinctly felt the burdens of excessive drinking. The lingering stench of years of smoking, and the decay wrought by sleepless nights dissipate after consuming 4 buns, leaving his once bleary eyes sparkling with clarity. A refreshing purity untainted by pollution. Yet, the internal malaise had been cultivated over many years. The buns could only provide fleeting relief. Impatiently, he exclaimed, "Bring me 10 more meat buns." His proclamation stunned those around him, who had initially observed the vendor with pity and derision, anticipating trouble from a local ruffian. To their astonishment, the plot took an unexpected turn. The young man not only refrained from causing a ruckus, but deftly produced his phone to make a payment. A mechanical voice announced, "Wealth has arrived, 100 yuan. The startled onlookers, questioning their own ears, confirmed they had not misheard. The young man truly intended to purchase 10 more. Were these buns genuinely that delectable? The reaction of Huang Mao was entirely within Xiao Lan's expectations. He displayed no significant emotional fluctuations and merely reminded, "You owe for the 4 meat buns." Huang Mao was momentarily taken aback, but he quickly regained his composure. "Oh, I forgot to pay. Right away. Soon." The mechanical voice chimed again. "Fortune bounty credited, 40 yuan." After settling the payment, Huang Mao fixated intently on the steamer, his eyes gleaming with anticipation as he watched Xiao Lan retrieve the buns one by one. 129.10. After packing 10 buns, Huang Mao gazed at the few remaining in the steamer, yearning to claim them all. With the buns in hand, Huang Mao did not leave. He was simply too eager and began to devour them straight from the bag. He consumed them with fervor, each meat bun approximately the size of half his palm, exuding the essence of a small steamed bun. One after another, the plump, white buns disappeared into his mouth, and he felt an immense satisfaction enveloping his stomach. Yet, it was not merely his stomach that felt fulfilled, it was also his previously hollow existence. In the 18 years prior, he had never experienced such a sense of completeness. Previously, while eating, he had been preoccupied with the bounteous meat filling. Now, having indulged more extensively, he began to appreciate the exquisite nature of the bun's outer layer. It resembled a partner in a Latin dance performance, never overshadowing the female dancer, yet allowing her to shine even more brilliantly under his guidance. The texture of the outer skin was akin to the gentle caress of a spring breeze, soft and warm. As his teeth sank into the smooth, tender exterior, he experienced an indescribable delicacy, reminiscent of treading upon clouds or sinking into the softness of a cat's belly. When the skin gently ruptured in his mouth, it released a subtle fragrance of wheat, and with each bite, the layers of the bun unfolded slowly on his tongue. The outer layer was delicate and warm, the middle layer light and fluffy, while the innermost layer, infused with broth, was savory and moist. The skin of a single meat bun revealed a trifecta of textures, and combined with the filling, it was simply perfect. The myriad of sensations intertwined to form an intricate web, and he willingly ensnared himself within it. With the speed of a whirlwind, Huang Mao devoured 14 meat buns. He felt no need for water and did not experience any choking. The freshly steamed buns contained ample moisture. He did not even feel full, as he had eaten so quickly that his stomach had yet to register the quantity consumed. Typically, regardless of how delectable the food, the joy derived from eating diminishes with each additional bite, a phenomenon known in economics as the law of diminishing marginal utility, colloquially referred to as growing tired of something. Yet, this principle seemed to falter in the case of the buns. With each bun he consumed, There was a new delight to discover. Some buns were laden with broth, others contained large chunks of meat, some were particularly delicate, and a few concealed bits of ginger. Each bun seemed to harbor numerous secrets waiting to be uncovered. He even felt an impulse to consume another 14. However, at that moment, his uncooperative stomach began to react, signaling a sense of fullness. Lia Si observed Huang Mao's dazed expression, grinning broadly, as if to say, "Now do you appreciate Brotherland's skill?" Yesterday, as they indulged in their meal, the collective delight was so overwhelming that they collapsed onto the sofa, brought to tears by the exquisite flavors. While Xiaolan remained unfazed by the ensuing skepticism, Lia Si was determined to assert himself. He deliberately cleared his throat and inquired, "My friend, why are you still lingering? Surely, you do not intend to disrupt our gathering?" Huang Mao's notorious temper would not be subdued by merely savoring a few buns. Upon hearing Lia Si's taunt, he became incensed. "What did you say?" Just as he raised his hand, a sudden fullness surged within him, rendering him momentarily speechless. Consuming 14 buns in one sitting proved excessively indulgent. In such a state, he wisely chose to refrain from causing a scene, lest his vigorous movements lead to an unfortunate regurgitation. He certainly could not afford to lose his meal, as the buns were both costly and delectable. Thus, Huang Mao shot Lia Si a glare, declaring, "Just wait. I will return tomorrow for more and will indeed cause a ruckus." Having delivered his threat, he cradled his swollen belly and departed with measured steps. Once Huang Mao left, the onlookers promptly approached. In their eagerness to witness the spectacle, many had already missed a green light. They observed Huang Mao's transformation and marveled at his impressive consumption of buns. There was no longer any need to validate the bun's deliciousness. The evidence was irrefutable. "Boss, I would like 2 meat buns, please." "I'll take 2 as well." A particularly health-conscious young woman hesitated briefly before stating, "I'll have 1 meat bun and 1 vegetable bun." Under normal circumstances, she would avoid meat buns, aware of their greasy nature and her desire to maintain her figure. However, the vendor claimed his meat buns were handmade. In this day and age, such artisanal offerings were rare, perhaps warranting a moment of indulgence. Little did she know, some indulgences once tasted are difficult to forsake. In the blink of an eye, a crowd had gathered. Just as swiftly, they dispersed like a receding tide. They were not like Huang Mao, the aimless street wanderer. They had jobs to attend to. The breakfast trade operated swiftly, with patrons arriving and departing in rapid succession. Before long, Xiaolan found himself entirely alone. The traffic light began to flicker, signaling that time was running out for the remaining pedestrians. At that moment, a young man clad in a checkered shirt, carrying a backpack, hurriedly approached. Although he appeared rushed, there was an air of ease about him, suggesting he was accustomed to walking the fine line of punctuality, often teetering on the edge of tardiness, yet managing to clock in just in time to claim his monthly attendance bonus. Of course, there were moments when he faltered, experiencing a swift descent from grace. Observing the flashing green light, he did not immediately dash across the street. Instead, he quickly scanned the various breakfast stalls with keen eyes behind his glasses. Realizing that Xiaolan's stall had the fewest patrons, he surged forward. From 2 meters away, he called out, "Boss, I'll take 4 meat buns." As he shouted, he pulled out his phone to scan the payment code, embodying a spirit of urgency. Even Xiaolan, typically slow-paced, felt the urgency of the situation and hastened to retrieve the buns. 10 yuan each, a total of 40. What? The young man's mind momentarily faltered. His finger had already hovered over the number 8, poised for fingerprint payment. However, Xiaolan's quote was indeed beyond his expectations. Drawing from his extensive experience in purchasing breakfast, he knew that meat buns typically cost 2 yuan each, so for would amount to merely 8 yuan. All breakfast stalls likely sourced their buns from the same supplier, resulting in uniform pricing. Thus, without a second thought, he proceeded to pay, unaware that Xiaolan had priced each bun at 10 yuan. This disrupted his rhythm. Could it be that she was taking advantage of his haste to swindle him? The young man felt a strong urge to pause and question the pricing, or perhaps abandon this stall altogether in favor of another. Yet, time was not on his side. His schedule was meticulously planned down to the last second, and if he did not purchase something, he would face hunger that morning. The only option left was to scrutinize Xiaolan's face, committing it to memory to ensure he would never return to her stall again. With a swift decision, he deleted the 8 and entered 40 before proceeding with the fingerprint payment. His mind raced through various thoughts, yet the deliberation took place in a mere instant. Before the voice prompt of his payment could finish, he snatched the bun from Xiaolan's hands and dashed away. The bill was 40 yuan. As the voice confirmation concluded, the young man, with his backpack slung over his shoulders, had just crossed the street. Just after he passed, the pedestrian signal flashed 3 times before abruptly turning red. He timed it perfectly. Though it appeared he had little time left, there was still some leeway. Even Xiaolan and Lia Si couldn't help but marvel at his retreating figure, pondering how many years of practice it must have taken to master such timing. Likely honed since kindergarten. 30 minutes later, Qin Gaojia punched in just as the clock ticked down the final 15 seconds, successfully taking his seat. After catching his breath, he set down his backpack, which housed his computer and the 4 meat buns he had purchased from the unscrupulous vendor, Xiaolan. Qin Gaojia was the unfortunate soul who had been compelled to spend 40 yuan on buns. He had already mentally berated the unscrupulous vendor during his subway ride. Typically, his breakfast budget was merely 8 yuan. Today, it had surged to over 5 times that amount. How could this vendor dare charge 10 yuan for a bun? With 10 yuan, one could buy 2 bowls of noodles. It was evident from his routine of commuting with a laptop that Qin Gaojia was a programmer. Even in this third-tier city, being a programmer is a relatively high-paying job. He had money, and his philosophy was that while he could afford to buy expensive items, he should not be overcharged. The feeling of being swindled left him quite unsettled, as if he were merely a gullible fool. Thus, as he extracted the 4 squished buns from his bag, he could not help but mutter curses under his breath. His female colleague, Xiao Cheng, noticing his perspiration, remarked, "If you only left 5 minutes earlier each day, you wouldn't be in such a rush." Qin Gaojia, what do you know? This is what I call racing against time. Xiao Cheng was rendered speechless. Brother, that elementary school text racing against time was meant to teach you to cherish time. Not to squander it until you have no time left and then desperately race against the clock. Qin Gaojia epitomizes rebellion, ignoring all advice. What do you care? I've been awarded perfect attendance for 6 consecutive months. As for you, Xiao Cheng, struck at a sore spot, jumped up and kicked his knee. Beyond that, there was little he could do. Hurry up and have your breakfast. You always eat breakfast during work hours. Don't let the team leader catch you. Qin Gaojia remained unfazed. It's fine, the team leader doesn't need to clock in. He is always late by over half an hour, which gives me plenty of time to finish breakfast and let the aroma dissipate. As he spoke, he leisurely untied the plastic bag. While checking his emails, he stuffed a bun into his mouth. Following his usual habit, 4 buns in 3 minutes was more than sufficient. Yet at the moment he took the first bite, he felt not the filling of the bun, but rather a gnawing sensation in his head. It was hard to describe the flavor he experienced. It was as if his mind had suddenly gone blank, or perhaps it was a moment of crystal clarity. He seemed to be immersed in an ethereal state of focus, oblivious to his surroundings and the sounds around him. His entire attention was concentrated on the meat bun in his mouth. Due to his rough handling, the bun had been flattened, yet this did not diminish its deliciousness. Perhaps it had altered the taste, but to him, it remained an unparalleled delight. The skin of the bun, having endured compression, had lost some of its elasticity. However, this very flattening allowed his teeth to bypass the skin's resistance and directly reach the succulent filling. That sudden burst of flavor, without any buffer, nearly swept away his very soul. Who am I? Where am I? What am I eating? This flavor is extraordinarily fresh. Wait, why am I using the word fresh? What does freshness mean? In the past, Qin Gaojia would never have contemplated anything related to food. If there was something to eat, that was the end of the matter. He had always been known for being easy to feed. Sometimes, a bowl of rice with soy sauce sufficed for a day. Yet, the meat bun in his hand suddenly drew him into such reflections, even hinting at a philosophical elevation. People know that among mountain delicacies and seafood, the flavor of freshness is most pronounced, yet it is challenging to accurately describe what freshness truly is. It is simply known as a complex, wondrous, and rich flavor. Scientists have attempted to extract the essence of freshness, ultimately producing something called monosodium glutamate from seaweed. Monosodium glutamate is indeed a remarkable discovery. However, at this moment, Qin Gaojia was entirely convinced that, compared to true freshness, monosodium glutamate is merely a one-dimensional imitation, a second-rate alternative. No seasoning can replicate the exquisite taste of this meat bun. None. If you disagree, come and debate. As Qin Gaojia savored the meat juices of the bun, he found himself lost in profound philosophical contemplation. The flavor of this bun is extraordinarily sophisticated and rich. In his shallow existence, he has never encountered a comparable experience. He could never fathom that anyone in the world could replicate such a taste. This must be a culinary masterpiece crafted by divine hands. To think that such exquisite fare is sold for merely 10 yuan each, he had previously deemed it too expensive. How utterly unappreciative. Chapter 55. A mishap leads to imprisonment. Qin Gaojia was so engrossed in his meal that he nearly entered a state of flow, completely oblivious to his surroundings. Unbeknownst to him, a circle of colleagues had gathered around, all clamoring with questions. What are you eating? Where did you buy these buns? They look delicious. Can you spare one for me? Wow, the aroma is incredible. How did you manage to bring it to the office without it affecting work? Hey, buddy, say something. Why are you so unresponsive? Suddenly, a voice from behind interrupted. What is all this commotion? Aren't we supposed to be working? Upon hearing the team leader's voice, the crowd dispersed like startled birds. The leader, catching a whiff of the rich meat scent in the air, immediately inquired, Didn't we say no eating breakfast at our desks? Qin Gaojia. As Qin Gaojia snapped back to reality, he was met with the furious visage of his team leader. His colleague, Xiao Cheng, discreetly pinched his arm, urging him to respond. Yet even the painful grip did little to rouse him from his stupor. It was only when he finished the bun, having gnawed down to the plastic bag, that clarity returned to his eyes. Panic set in. Leader? Look at the time. He awoke from his daze and glanced at the computer screen, only to discover that 30 minutes had slipped away. How could this happen? He had been completely unaware of the passage of time. I told you not to eat at your desk. Crumbs attract cockroaches. Just look at the mess you've made. Upon hearing this, Qin Gaojia lowered his head, and his pupils dilated in shock. He noticed that his keyboard had been splattered with broth. This was his own computer. Its importance rivaled that of a wife. Having only brought it home 6 months ago, it could not be allowed to suffer damage. He hurriedly grabbed a tissue to wipe it clean. As he was cleaning, he inexplicably brought the tissue to his nose and inhaled deeply. In an instant, all thoughts of his wife vanished, and he could not help but emit a sound of pure delight. Ah, how fragrant! He recalled that the first bun was tender and smooth, while the second burst with savory juices. The broth must have splashed out at that moment. Remarkably, one meat bun possessed two utterly distinct flavors. Perhaps it was not an illusion. He must buy some again tomorrow to savor it once more. Qin Gaojia, I'm speaking to you. Are you still dazed? Come with me to the conference room. At that moment, the leader's shout finally captured Qin Gaojia's attention. He saw the leader's face pale with anger, and his heart sank. This is bad. Frequenting the riverbank. One still gets wet shoes today. It seems an admonishment is unavoidable. Shaolan's influence on Feng'an district is akin to the gentle flutter of a butterfly's wings, heralding the onset of a brewing storm. For individuals like Qin Gaojia, merely facing reprimand after a mishap is considered fortunate. Some, however, find themselves incarcerated at the first misstep. This morning, the young man with the bleached hair had plans to embark on a significant heist after breakfast. His mentor, Brother Tang, initially imparted to him the art of thievery. Once the young man had grasped the essentials, Brother Tang proposed a bold venture, breaking and entering. He had long been observing a particular household, meticulously deciphering their routines, knowing precisely when the homeowner would leave for work and return. After weeks of surveillance, Brother Tang had settled on today's date for their endeavor. Yet, just before setting out, the young man, clutching his phone, called Brother Tang. I'm sorry, Brother Tang, but I might not be able to make it today. The peculiar sounds emanating from the phone prompted concern in Brother Tang. What's wrong? Don't tell me you were pecked by a chicken. The young man, feeling quite embarrassed, explained, No, it's just that I overindulged at breakfast. I ate too quickly and got a cramp, and now I can hardly breathe. I ended up at the hospital. Brother Tang erupted in fury. You're truly a disappointment. I had reserved this golden opportunity for you, to help you prosper, and you bail on me at the last moment. We were set to pose as a moving company and clear out the homeowner's belongings. But with you incapacitated, you can hardly move, let alone lift furniture. Please, Brother Tang, let us postpone until tomorrow. I assure you, I'll be fine by then. Wait for you. Not a chance. After all the effort I put into timing this perfectly, you want to delay? I'll find someone else to assist me today. Get well soon. With that, Brother Tang hung up, leaving the young man staring at his phone in dismay, lamenting the vendor selling buns who had chosen today to set up shop, thus thwarting his grand plans. Little did he know, Brother Tang would soon find himself behind bars for his ill-fated burglary attempt. The twist of fate was rather remarkable. The homeowner, who was expected to be at work, had returned shortly after leaving. Coincidentally, as the young man indulged in 14 buns at Shaolan's stall, the homeowner stood nearby, tempted by the delicious sight and aroma, and decided to buy some buns himself. They brushed past each other, unaware, especially the young man, who did not recognize the homeowner due to Brother Tang's intentional withholding of details to prevent him from acting prematurely. Ironically, in attempting to protect himself, Brother Tang inadvertently sealed his own fate. The homeowner purchased 2 buns, finishing them off in the brief span of crossing the street. The enchanting aroma lingered in the air, causing him to hesitate for quite some time. Ultimately, unable to resist the allure of the buns, he decided to turn back and buy a few more. This back and forth delayed him significantly, inevitably leading to tardiness. While lateness incurs a deduction in salary, requesting time off does not. Thus, the homeowner opted to apply for a half-day leave, planning to return to work in the afternoon. He then made his way back to Shaolan's bun stall, indulging in a delightful meal before wiping his mouth and packing 10 buns to take home. As he leisurely strolled back to his doorstep, he chanced upon Brother Tang and his accomplice moving items out of his house. The question arose, should he call the police? Brother Tang and his partner struggled to carry a refrigerator taller than themselves, only to be greeted by the homeowner's raised cell phone camera and the police's body-worn camera. Additionally, there were 2 nearly new silver bracelets, each belonging to them, rendering theft unnecessary. The police, hands behind their backs, smiled and remarked, Ah, you two are quite the catch. Engaging in criminal artistry so early in the morning is somewhat amusing. The homeowner, witnessing this, considered it a serendipitous encounter, noting that they should carry the refrigerator, sofa, and washing machine back for him due to their substantial weight. Brother Tang and his accomplice exchanged glances, realizing the burden they had just hoisted down, only to face the prospect of lifting it all again without a moment's respite. How can you police be so cruel? They wondered. Meanwhile, Shaolan suddenly received a system notification. Ding. 2 C-class criminals have been apprehended. Capture effective. Reward, 40,000 yuan and 400 points. Keep up the good work. Surprised by the swift capture, Shaolan remained unaware of the identities or locations of the offenders. He knew only that the system would attribute all indirectly food-related criminal activities to him. Unable to suppress a low murmur of reflection, he mused. This truly is a den of thieves. The density of criminals is astonishing. Just a few hours since I set up my stall, and 2 have already been caught. However, he pondered if one of them might be the young man with yellow hair he had encountered that morning. When the yellow-haired young man had approached earlier, Xiaolon noticed the red light on his food cart illuminating in a manner that suggested malice. Fortunately, the light was not glaringly red, falling short of prompting an immediate call to the authorities. Perhaps the young man had engaged in petty theft before, but the sums involved were not significant. He appeared quite young and might yet find his way to a more righteous path. Little did he know, however, that he had narrowly escaped a serious predicament. Unbeknownst to him, burglary was a far graver offense than his usual petty thefts. If the value of the stolen items exceeded 1,000 yuan, it could lead to a prison sentence of less than 3